Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Lorcana tournament. That's right. I am Jack, and I am joined by the Illumiteers. Hi, guys.
Hey.
How are y'all doing tonight?
We're doing well.
We're doing great.
Excellent. Excellent. So the three of us are going to be live commentating on a tournament happening right now out in Charlotte, North Carolina.
That is correct. Yeah.
Excellent. We should
get some game.
Absolutely. We should pretty much dive into it. So this is going to be the top 8. We got 2 players right now already at the table. This thing's kicking off hot. So these guys have been playing for about 5 hours already, and we are down to the final 8 right now. We got Rudy and Xavier up at the table. They are going through, I think they're going through their mulligan phase right now. And hi, everyone watching live at home. Hope you're having yourself a good night.
Yeah, this is great. So this is the first round of the top 8. You're right, 5 Swiss rounds, cut to the top 8. This game, we're going to be watching the 1 versus the 8 seed. So this is Rudy Vasquez piloting a Steel Song deck in the 1 seed versus Xavier Moore on Ruby Steel as the 8 seed.
Excellent.
I'm really excited to see a Ruby Steel deck get played. I feel like this is like a color combo that we haven't seen very frequently in the most recent meta. So I'm excited to see, some new variety coming out with Inklands.
Yeah.
All right, and we are kicking it off right now. Looks like Xavier is on the start, or not, because Rudy's on the draw. You taught me this last time.
On the play.
On the play, Rudy's on the draw. So here we go. We see a location as an ink as well. So location's brand new thing coming into Inklands, just came out last Friday. So I'm excited to see how these come into play.
Yeah, and immediately it looks like I've lied to you. The color I was tracking was wrong. It looks like we're watching a Ruby Amethyst deck there being piloted on the left, but Steel Song, I believe, still on the right.
Nice.
I mean, I think I saw a Ruby card on the right.
Maybe our brackets are all off. Well, we'll see.
Deck to be named later. So
Beautiful.
I see that. Sorry, Rudy on the right. Nope, not Rudy. Rudy's on the left. Xavier's on the right. So I see Xavier on the right. Liam is started off with that Robin Hood. I know we've heard a lot about the Robin Hood package recently, and just how strong it is. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, that's right. That is
blurry,
that is the 1-drop Robin Hood, and you're 100% right. One of the things that Steel got in this set was the shift Robin Hood. It shifts for 3 with the cost of 5, and what that does for Steel is it unlocks some powerful songs on turn 3. So shifting Robin Hood into the Floodborn Robin Hood on turn 3, the ink is dry and you can immediately sing, let's say, Grab Your Swords if you're worried about an aggro deck, try to do some damage to the board, or you can sing A Whole New World if you're on a song package and wheel like immediately on turn 3. So it's a tool that Steel Song got that I think people appreciated at the time, but we're really seeing it make an appearance in the meta now.
So great.
Nice. All right. So again, thank you everyone watching us live right now. This is our first remote tournament that we're broadcasting from, so I'm excited to try some stuff out. So I'm working on some back end stuff. If things are quiet or things are a bit weird, I apologize. We're working on it. But hi everyone watching on my Twitch channel, and this will be archived as well. So if you come in late or you can't make the whole thing, don't worry. We will have the video up somewhere. Keep an eye on our Twitter accounts, and we'll let you know where it ends up.
So it looks like we went ahead and saw that Robin Hood shift. So they had a pretty decent mulligan, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things this deck wants to do. I may have missed it. I didn't see a song or anything sung immediately, but looks like a quest right off the gate with that Robin Hood. But
I don't believe so, because I've seen that Maui in the discard pile for quite a little bit of time. So I don't believe we missed a song.
Okay. So those of you who are tuning in who might not know what this is, so this is Lorcana. This is a trading card game from Ravensburger in cooperation with Disney. It's all Disney-based characters, except for some original IP for the actual game itself, but there's just a few of those in there. So you're going to see all kinds of different cards from, we can see right now we got, Minnie Mouse on the table. We've got Madame Mim as a snake from The Sword and the Stone. There's Robin Hood out there, I believe. And so a lot of cool stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. The game kicked off last September, and just last Friday we had the second expansion hit. And so right now, people are getting excited for it. This is one of the first tournaments I've seen since the new expansion has hit. So we're happy to be here commentating on it. All right, Liam and Aaron, I still got you guys, right?
Yeah, we're here. I mean, engrossed in the game. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I do love Lorcana. I lose myself sometimes, watching these players, and you're kind of trying to get inside their head, thinking through, what they're doing in certain situations, as they're trying to understand their opponent's deck and trying to think through what their potential draws are, what their potential outs are. So yeah, if I go quiet, I'm kind of in the zone.
It's fun because the last time you and I commentated together, the three of us commentated, was down in Houston. And we were side by side, and certainly towards the end of the day, we were so just like enjoying watching the game happen that it was like, oh, we got to talk. People are listening to this. That's right. That's the whole thing that we're supposed to do. That's why they bring us here. So yeah, but this time we've got 3 rounds. We're in the top 8 right now. Again, this is going to be every single round is going to be best of 3. So you can see at the top right now it is 0-0. This is the first game between Rudy and Xavier. Whoever wins this, if they win one more, they will advance on to the final 4 and then into the finals after that if they win that match. And yeah, it's going to be a good one. So we got a bunch of Lorcana in front of us now. Let us know in chat if you're enjoying this, if you're having a good time, if you play Lorcana, and what is your new favorite card. I do see a friends on the other side there. That's classic right there.
Yes, it is. Interesting. Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell is a shift target. I think she's fallen out of favor a little bit recently, so it's fun to see her being played here. She does offer, the ability to loot, which is slang for draw a card off the top of the deck and then discard a card. And she's also a shift target, but a little expensive for a 2/4, and there's a new card running around called Cloud Kicker, which allows you to send a character with strength 2 or less back to your hand, and she's a prime target for good old Kit when he's played. So fun to see Tinkerbell played here. I don't think, and there it is as a shift target.
There we go. Big Tink.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so for those of you also asking, so there are, like, I see in my chat right now, Hold My Churro, Joe, big fan of Joe, he's an awesome dude, explaining that there are 6 different colors in Lorcana. Of course, we got Amber, Amethyst, Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, and Steel, and any deck can be comprised of at least or just 2 of those colors. So you can only pick 2 colors for a deck, and then your deck must contain at least 60 cards. And of those cards, you can only have 4 of any one card in your deck. There is a break for that with this new expansion with Into the Inklands. There is a puppy card from 101 Dalmatians that you can have up to 99 of that one specific card in your deck. But other than that, just 4 per specific card. So, yeah. Have you seen any puppy decks out there yet, Liam?
No.
I don't think we've seen any puppies in the Swiss rounds today.
Oh.
Or just in general. Yeah. I think people are still collecting them. 99 is a tough ask. So I'm working on it myself, and I think I have like 9.
Yeah. Crazily enough, yeah, of the so there are variants of the puppies now. There are 5 different puppy variants, and that is, I have completed my play sets for every single common, every single uncommon, except for the puppies, because I'm trying to get 4 of each variant. So you need 20 puppies to complete your set. So it's tricky.
That's crazy. Why stop at 20?
Well, I mean, technically I need 25, but because I'm a crazy person who has a play set and a master set. So, and then I need a foil for each. So really I need 20, but I need 30 puppies total. But what can you do?
I think we see our first location out.
Yeah, first location of the game, first location of the top 8, perhaps. That's the RLS Legacy. For anybody new in the chat, that's the ship from Treasure Planet making an appearance here. This gives characters who are on it evasive, and it also grants you 2 lore passively. So a nice card that Ruby got as a tool, and I see it appearing in a lot of Ruby Amethyst lists as both a late game card and a mid game card, actually.
All right, I'm working on boosting you guys up a little bit. Apparently, chat saying you're a little bit quiet, but
my bad. All right,
that's okay. Unless you guys just want to swallow your microphone, that works too.
I'll talk louder.
Oh, and I think we saw our first Be Prepared of the game.
Yeah, and be prepared. Interesting, because be prepared does not touch locations.
That is true. That is true. So, one of the tools that this deck, that is immune to be prepared. So, we kind of see the perfect use of the location here being, on the board, not susceptible to be prepared, which banishes all characters, continuing to gain lore for Rudy after the board is cleared. And of course, with Xavier having to rebuild his board before potentially doing any damage to that location, it may be around, it's going to stick around for a little while before Xavier can do anything about it.
Oh, yeah. Another location pops out. That's free lore right there. Start of every single turn. It's the way locations work now. So when you have a location out and it is still on the table when it becomes your turn, you get whatever lore is on that location. So right now, Rudy's sitting on 4 lore at the beginning of his turn unless Xavier can do something about it. And I love that. I love the locations. I want to make a location deck. Do you think that's feasible, Liam? Do you think I could have a deck with just, what is it? I guess 6 times 4. I could have 24 locations in a deck.
You could.
Why do you say that with a question mark in your voice?
I think it may work. I think you could build a very location heavy deck with some cards to augment it, like Jim Hawkins and a few others, and I think it could do pretty well. I just wouldn't go all locations.
Okay. Well, you say that, then all my locations, then my legacy takes over. Then my pride rock takes over.
There you go. Yeah, Queen's Castle on the board here. Queen's Castle is a location that scared a lot of people when it was first revealed. One of the things that Amethyst was never really short on was card draw. It's kind of known as the card draw color in Lorcana. And then they get Queen's Castle, which is a card where at the start of your turn, for each character you have on it, you may draw a card. So what makes it even better is it has 7 willpower, which it makes it a little tricky to remove because that's kind of a lot of damage to apply all in one turn. So right now it's gaining 7 lore. Or gaining 2 lore a turn. It's difficult to remove. And then if things get sticky, or if there's some extra ink sitting around, like there is right this turn, Rudy can pop the fox there, and if it sticks around next turn, he can get a bonus card. So it's a great little location, and even better, it's inkable.
That's great. You'd love to see it. All right, looks like Tink's doing some questing there. So Rudy was down 1-7 for a bit there, lore-wise, and now he's made a comeback. Those 2 locations certainly helped him out, and at the beginning of this turn, he's going to tie it up immediately with the 2 lore. And here we go, right there, boom. So Rudy is sitting at 9, all tied up, all knotted up with 11 lore to go. Again, if you're watching, if you're new to this game, the goal of this game is to get to 20 lore before your opponent does. And you can see at the top of our screen there, we are tracking the actual lore counts currently. And so with Mim also questing, that'll pick up Rudy. Rudy is now in the lead, halfway home, as they say. Who they is, I don't know.
And be prepared. Again, so be prepared. For those new to the game, is a card that destroys all characters on the board. It's kind of your board clear in the game. And Jack, as you pointed out earlier, locations are not affected by be prepared. So again, Rudy's able to have a location stick, clear the board of all other threats, drop a Maleficent now, move it to the location for card draw. So we're really seeing the locations do work in this Ruby Amethyst list.
I'm curious if Rudy didn't take their 2 lore at the start of that last round for that location. It was still up. This is a very new mechanic to the game, so some people might miss that stuff. You definitely got to call it out.
That is true. And one thing I'll point out there, I had this discussion earlier today with some folks. I think there's 2 lore. I'm not sure if that was a catch up. Gaining lore with the location is not a may. It is a must. So it's one of those things that it is on you as the player to make sure you catch it and track it and represent the lore state accurately. But if you're thinking that if your opponent misses it, that you can he's missed the trigger and now he can't go back and get that lore, that's not necessarily true. Oftentimes a judge will let you catch up on that lore count, because again, it's not a may gain 2 lore, it's a you gain 2 lore. It happens. So it's incumbent on everybody, both players, to track the board state and make sure it's accurate and make sure that the lore count is accurate. But it's one of those things, that players have to remember. Like if you have a location and you miss getting that lore at the start of your turn like you're supposed to, don't think you can't then go back and be like and correct your score.
Yeah,
you should. That's part of the game. Yeah.
And I love those D23 sleeves. Those are pretty rad.
Yeah, I think those are out of Japan. I think those are like the Weiss sleeves that were put out recently. So probably, I think those are imported from Japan. The chat will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure.
All right, so
very cool.
Rudy picking up 2 more lore already. Looks like he has moved all of his characters to the location now.
It looks like it, yes.
Yeah. Again, keep in mind, folks watching at home, we are literally states away. We are half the country away from this tournament. So, if we don't pick up on certain things, we apologize for that. But hey, what can you do? All right, going questing, picking up 3 more lore there from the characters. So Rudy is now at a win state next turn, it looks like. So we'll see how this goes. Throwing out Maui and rush attacking there.
I have to say that on Javier's side, that Queen of Hearts that he just had out that is now in his discard pile is like one of my favorite pieces of art. Every time I see it.
Which queen is that? I think there's a few of them. Is that Regal Monarch, I believe?
I'm trying to remember her.
No, she's...
And I don't know why I cannot, off the top of my head, remember her name.
All right, and looks like right there, Rudy has taken the game. Is that Capricious Monarch? No, she'd be... All right, there we go. So already one down. One round down. Rudy with the one of the defeat. And just like that, we move on to the second game. So how do you feel? How you feel? That was my first casted Inklands match. How you guys feeling over there?
Moment.
Yeah, pretty big deal. Pretty significant. I'm glad we have this on record.
I feel like Liam and I are a little rusty from the last couple of weeks ago. So.
Well, you guys have been under the weather. No, so
yeah, that is also true. We have been dealing with our entire family has been dealing with COVID all week. So no, it's I think this tournament has been really competitive today. It's been great to see. I'm loving seeing all of these varieties of decks, as I mentioned at the beginning, not just seeing Ruby Amethyst against Ruby Amethyst. Now, granted, we did just see a Ruby Amethyst. So, but looking at the bracket for the top 8, I think we have a good variety of decks that we have the possibility of seeing. So,
yeah, I will say the last tournament we did, I felt it was something like 6 of the top 8 were Ruby Amethyst or something like that. So it's nice to see some variance in the decks this time. So that's good.
Yeah, Liam kind of mentioned it earlier today, calling it kind of the honeymoon phase after Into the Inklands came out, where all of the players are trying to, figure out, is Ruby Amethyst still the go-to deck, or, is there potentially another color combination that's going to rise to the top in the meta after Inklands came out. So I think we're seeing Emerald get a lot more love than it was getting in Floodborn, and I love that because I love Emerald. I think it's a really, really cool color and does some neat stuff. So I'm loving seeing that pop up in a lot of decks. We don't see it on this table right now, but hopefully we'll see it at some point in the top 8.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. Sorry, I'm a little quiet. I'm checking deck lists. I'm looking at tournament results. Like I'm trying to dig in here between rounds. I do like the honeymoon phase. I think is exactly right. Anytime a new set comes out, there's this period where everybody's on the one hand, some people are modifying their current decks and trying to see if they're still good, but also it's the Wild West. Everybody's trying out these new different brews and trying to break the meta and come up with a new hot thing. And it takes, probably a few weeks for everything to kind of settle down and us for a true picture of where, the tiers are of the current meta deck. So what we're seeing here, is kind of an example, because on the left we have, as we know, Ruby Amethyst, which has been, the dominant deck in the meta, and it got a lot of new riches. So compared to on the right here, a deck that's kind of new-ish, Ruby Steel, which there were some versions that bounced around, but it didn't really top tournaments, and so we have kind of a new deck. So it's kind of the old guard against the new guard here, and it's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, if anything, too, I love seeing stuff. There's a smash. I know that card. Like it's we're at the point now where I've been looking at these cards now for about a week, and so it does take some time as a caster to actually memorize and start identifying cards just very quickly, because we're not sitting over these guys' shoulders. We're watching their tables, but still, like, we have no connection. They can't hear us. So it's been fun to try to keep up to date with what's happening right now. So I haven't opened enough packs yet to understand exactly what each and every card is. So I can see that's the Prince, though.
Yeah. It is, and this is a great opening. I think, the deck on the right, Xavier is probably on one of his best openings, and on the left, Rudy, I think, is not feeling it right now. Mm-hmm. Having to hard play friends on turn 3 for the ink isn't what he wants to be doing, and what Xavier has done here, setting himself up, is playing a high lore character on turn 2, like 3 lore on Simba is very, very good. Here's another one now.
Oh,
so you have 6 lore represented by Simbas on the board, and then the Prince Bodyguard is a fantastic bodyguard because it has resist 1. So there are answers, over there on the right. Rudy, A Teeth and Ambitions is kind of one of them, which would allow him to do 2 damage to a character and remove that Simba. But unfortunately, Teeth and Ambitions requires a character on the board for you to deal 2 damage, of your own to deal 2 damage to. So right now, not much that's going to get through that bodyguard. Quickly. So Prince Eric, though, is a great play. Prince Eric is a new character, 2 willpower, 2 lore. When he's banished, you can banish an opposing character or a character of your choice. So this is a great setup here to remove a couple characters potentially. A Teeth and Ambitions here would allow Rudy to deal 2 damage to a Simba, 2 damage to his own Eric, and then remove the other Simba or perhaps the bodyguard. So perhaps he's setting up for a play here.
I mean, that's tough. Xavier's already 3 lore away from winning the whole thing, and he has how many lore sitting on the table? I see 4, 5, 11 lore on the table. So
yeah.
I think Rudy may have just had a really rough draw, and this might be one of the quickest matches I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree. It was a tough draw. I think for Rudy, and probably one of the best draws. The only thing that would have made this better, perhaps, is a like a 1-turn drop, but getting the Simba on 2 followed by the bodyguard on turn 3 is just good.
Well, and it looks like Rudy didn't even have a 1, didn't have a 2 drop, both, because you didn't see anything on his board when he had to hard play that be prepared, or the friends on the other side. So that was just, that was a real rough start.
Wow, just like that, game over. Xavier Javier very quickly turns it around, coming back to us here. That was one of the fastest matches we've ever seen, I think.
It's fast.
In all of our tournaments we've casted together, that was what, turn 5, I believe, and it was game.
Hyper aggro.
Wow.
I mean, and one of those things, like sometimes the draw is just right. I mean, you saw an unfortunate draw, I think, on the left, and then, the 2 Simbas probably in the first couple turns. So either in the opening hand or, drawing into them, and then the bodyguard, that's a great setup. And again, Rudy is capable of dealing with that. He has Teeth and Ambitions, he has cards. I think he has Teeth and Ambitions. I'm gonna double check. Yes, he is running 3 copies of Teeth and Ambitions. So this game, having gone through that, Rudy is, if he wasn't before, is heavy mulliganing for, early turn characters, but then also that Teeth and Ambitions to try to knock out something around that bodyguard.
Yeah, that is wild. Casavar is saying, how did Xavier win so quick? I mean, that's what it is. So Xavier basically put out low-cost cards that had high incentive to go questing, which is that's how you collect lore. That's how you get up to 20 lore and win the game. And Rudy, unfortunately, his hand, he had nothing to combat it. And by the time he was able to do anything, at that point, Xavier already had a full table full of characters that had lots and lots of lore eligible to them. And not only that, he had, I believe, 3 bodyguard characters played. So you can see here the prints on the screen right now. That's a bodyguard character, which means if you have that character available to you and your opponent wants to attack you, they won't challenge you. You can only challenge it. You have to challenge a bodyguard first before you challenge any other characters. That is basically when you face off your offense versus defense. So that loaded with bodyguards with a whole bunch of lore out there that they could quest for, and that just took the game very, very quickly. But looks like we're going to it. We're starting up the third and final match right here in our top 8 tournament versus Rudy versus Xavier. Let's see how it turns out. I'm pumped for it. I'm excited.
Yeah. So one other difference, I'll mention in those last 2 games. I mean, Xavier was on the play on game 2. Having lost game 1, he gets the option to go first. And when you're playing aggro, going first versus going second makes a huge difference.
So I mean, I know what that means, but what does the play mean, Liam?
Yeah, so in many card games, and Lorcana is one of them, the player who goes first has an inherent advantage. So to give them a little bit of a disadvantage to compensate for that, they're generally not allowed to draw a card on the first turn. And so therefore, you differentiate between who goes first and second, often by saying who's on the play, who gets to play first, and then who's on the draw, as in who gets to draw first. And those are different players.
Okay, there you go. There's some tips, some tricks you can take home when you're playing at home with your friends. Be like, oh, you're on the play, I'm on the draw, and they'll be very impressed with your knowledge of professional card games tournaments.
Using the card game lingo.
Absolutely. All right, here we go. Back at it again.
So it doesn't look like Javier had a 1-drop, because we're seeing 2 ink on his side. So. Oh, and discarding a Be Prepared.
Ooh.
Yeah, which I think he's happy to do. It's uninkable. It's like a rock in his hand. Mm-hmm. And I think in a game like this, if he's playing Be Prepared, he knows he's in a rough spot. Mm-hmm. So yeah, getting that out of his hand is probably just fine.
It looks like he might even have a second in there, either a Be Prepared or a Teeth and Ambitions. I think I saw while he was flipping through his hand. So it might have just been a spare.
All right, where's your Breezy? We got a Kuzco on the field. Everyone loves Kuzco.
There we go. Minnie Mouse Surfer. It's a card we're used to seeing.
Oh, that's the llama. Sorry, I got the wrong Kuzco. My bad. Yeah, that Minnie Mouse Surfer, that's another great one. We see that a lot. Played for aggro decks.
Yeah, Minnie Mouse Surfer, quest for 2 lore, which is decent. Any card that quest for 2 lore just feels good. But she has evasive, so she allows you to slowly gather lore without your opponents generally being able to do anything about it without some sort of targeted removal.
Yeah, so what that means, evasive, what that means is evasive characters can only be attacked by evasive characters. So if you have, an evasive character that can quest for something like 2 lore, you can see on the right side of that card there, the bottom right corner. Yeah, that's great. If your opponent has no response to that, that's good news for you. All right, Minnie's singing.
Oh, so Minnie's singing Friends.
Yeah, it's another use for Minnie. That's the way you like to play Friends, by singing it as opposed to playing it with your ink.
So what does singing mean, Liam?
Yeah, so great question. So Lorcana has a fun mechanic where because it's Disney, rather than playing a song card from your hand, and there's a variety of songs in this game. A lot of them, Disney fans will know and love from a variety of their favorite films. Rather than playing it from your hand using resources, your ink, like normal, one of your characters can sing that song. and allow you to play it that way. So rather than questing or doing something else, your character spends the turn singing a song, which leads to some, fantastic images in your head, like in this scenario, Minnie Mouse on her surfboard singing "Friends from the Other Side," the voodoo song that we love from.
I was about to say we were talking to a pro like a pro player a couple of nights ago, and they kept referring to Jafar singing "Bippity Boppity Boo," which is just an amazing visual image.
Yeah, this is certainly a game that you find yourself humming songs in your head as you play them down too. So, warning: if you decide to play this game, 100% you will find yourself singing, any number of songs. Teeth and Ambitions,
and they get stuck in your head.
All right, Rudy is now up 3-2 in the lore count right now. Again, the winner of this will advance on to our final four of this $1,000 tournament, hosted by GSG out in Charlotte, North Carolina. Money is on the table. And for those of you who don't know how tournaments work, you want to do better in tournaments. The better you do, the more money you make. Just throwing that out there.
Better the prestige, the more Jack and I get to talk about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do appreciate the D23 cards because it makes it very easy to actually spot the how much ink the player has. Joe in chat says, it's actually a rule that you have to sing a whole new hand when you play a whole new world. That is true. That's in the rule book. Don't look it up. And I see we've got a location on the board again with a Jim Hawkins on the board too.
Yeah, Jim Hawkins, fun character that came out. Again, lots of Treasure Planets in this set. So if you're one of those who's a Treasure Planet fan, if that was if you were the right age range where that movie resonates with you, so much Treasure Planet in this game. Jim allows you to play a location for free when he comes into play, and then move to that location automatically. So great little utility character.
Yeah, and there are some locations that when you move to them, you get, they trigger actions, right?
Yeah, that's true. And then some just light characters to be there, the Queen's throne room that we saw earlier. Then there it is, which will give you cards if characters like Jim Hawkins are at that location. So it's a nice setup.
Okay.
There we are. So indicating he's drawing extra cards because of the location, which gives him an extra card per turn per character there.
It looks like he's sitting with two characters that got the mini and the Jim both there. I mean, that's one problem I always run into when I play the game is I end up not having any cards in my hand. So the ability to actually have additional draw is huge.
And then we have Madame Medusa come down from the Rescuers. She's another great tool that Ruby picked up this set, which allows you to banish a character with strength 3 or less when she comes into play. And there's a lot of really great characters with strength 3 or less kicking around. One of them is Floodborn Robin Hood. And so, unfortunately, he gets sent away by Madame Medusa.
Now, I see that Rudy has placed a token of some nature onto Madame Medusa. Do you know what that would represent, maybe?
I am not positive. I am wondering if that was meant to indicate that those characters were at that location.
Okay.
That's a possibility. But I'm not entirely sure. But I would like to know.
We got a Merlin goat on the board, one of my favorite characters and cards. So the way the Merlin goat works right there, Rudy's throughout. Whenever you play that character, you immediately get one lore. And then if that character leaves play, you get another lore. So it's pretty much guaranteed 2 lore because you're going to play them. And then if they get banished or if they return to your hand, you're getting another lore. So that's pretty huge. and Maui trying to do some work to those queens castles or queens manors.
Yeah, we saw this, this play out a little bit in the first game as well. We saw those locations are protected from Be Prepared again. So, again, those locations, we played, I think all three of us played in our starter deck event at our local game store, where we got to try out kind of the prefab decks that come with Into the Inklands. And you got to kind of test out some of the location capabilities, and those locations are pesky. They have a lot of willpower to be able to take them off the board. So
they are quite annoying. And with those locations too, Rudy just took the game and will advance on to our final four. So congratulations to Rudy. They have moved on. It's good to see it. I brought myself another guest host. This is Cooper. He'll be joining me for the rest of the matches, I'm sure, because he won't get off my desk. That is the difference between casting at an actual tournament versus casting at my house. Is there's more furry animals in the way. Well, there we go. We are done with our first matchup. We're making it to our final four. You guys, how y'all feeling?
Good. I'm very happy for Rudy. I'm very bummed that it's a Ruby Amethyst deck that took this match. I'm such an underdog person. For those of you who might be new to Lorcana, when the last set of Lorcana was out, the deck combination red, purple, ruby, amethyst was really, really prominent. All of the tournaments really heavily featured this deck color, and I was so excited when Into the Inklands came out that we were going to see some more color variety, and we definitely are. But Ruby Amethyst is still just such a powerhouse deck, and we're seeing it perform so well still. So
nice.
I was kind of secretly rooting for that Ruby Steel deck to win.
Well, I will say I agree with you. Like, it is nice to see something new. I will give credit to Rudy. He has modified the list quite a bit. It's a very different deck than it's not very different. It is moderately different than the deck of last season. Those locations make the end game look very different, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So credit to him for modding his deck with the new cards and coming out with a great deck that's taken him so far into the top four. In some cases the rich get richer, and in this case Ruby Amethyst got a little bit richer, but it is fun seeing what players are doing with some of those new tools. I love it.
Yeah. I will say, like, when we watched a lot of Ruby Amethyst matches before, they tended to go very long. And it seems now with locations, like, that's just another thing to worry about. And I think we're going to see lore quicker. And I think that's going to definitely speed up the matches. I mean, you're seeing now, we played maybe 40 minutes and we got through 3 games. I mean, that's really, really quick for those of you watching at home right now. Like, typically 3 games like that would at least push to an hour, usually a little bit over. I don't know if for this tournament, if they are, if they do not have a timer. I know for some tournaments, the top 8 usually they'll disable the timers for it, so you can go as long as you need to until the game is decided. So it's not just decided by a clock. It looks like 2 of the other. Oh, we have our final 4 right now. We've got Zach, Felipe, Ryan, and Rudy for our top 4, and we'll see right now. Let's see here. This is what our old bracket looked like before we've updated. Oh, let me get my thing going here. If I can find my mouse. There we are. All right. So here's our bracket. So Rudy is advanced on. Our 1 seed has advanced on. We've got Zach, who is our 3 seed, has advanced as well. Philippe, who was the 7 seed, went ahead and took out Adam right there. And who am I missing here? Oh, we got 2. Wait, Ryan, Rudy, Zach, and we saw Rudy win as well. So I think that's all of them. Rudy, Ryan, Zach, and Felipe. It's very kind of them that all the tops on those pairings advanced. So our 1, 5, 3, and 7 seeds all advanced on. So there we go. So
that is very helpful. Liam's over here scrambling, trying to get our bracket updated for us. But
we will get that updated. And looking good.
It looks like we're just like cruising right into the next round.
Well, are we already kicking off?
These they're probably getting ready to get going. So these players have all played a long day. 5 Swiss rounds is about 6 hours plus a break. Now another round, so that's 6 games. So I bet they're eager to move on a little bit, get things going. All right, I'm getting ready to get this bracket updated. Show you some updated stuff.
We'll let you guys know we are keeping an eye on the table, so don't worry, you're not going to miss any gameplay. I promise.
Yeah. No, this is great. Yeah, this has just been a fun day. All of these players, and I do want to say, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to, the player that we saw lose last round, Xavier Moore. Great list. We really saw what your deck could do in game 2. Like that lore rush was incredible.
It was amazing.
So it was really cool to see what you built coming in here with a deck that I think we haven't seen those color combos much. So it was fun watching it work. So big shout out there. Congrats on your finish in the top 8.
Can I just say, I have a special place in my heart for Ruby Steel, because before Lorcana came out last spring and the summer, Liam and I would go on various podcasts and we would always, be asked the question, what is the deck color you're most excited to play? And I would always say Ruby Steel. And at the time, honestly, Ruby Steel wasn't looking like it was going to be a good deck for the first chapter. And so I used to get kind of, not made fun of is the wrong word, but people would be like, okay, well, Aaron, hope you don't like winning. And so, to see a Ruby Steel deck come out, place in a top 8 of a tournament, it's just, it makes my heart so happy to see that deck doing well, and that it has, has a place in the top 8. That's really great.
Yeah. So these are, looks like we're getting ready here.
Yeah, very, very quick here. Let's see if I can throw this bracket together super fast.
All right. So I sent you the updated one. Should be good. So these are couple great players. Everybody playing in this tournament is so great. We've seen some incredibly talented matches throughout the day. Incredibly talented players playing some great matches.
So there you go. There's our bracket right now. If you're looking at the screen, we got Rudy, we got Ryan, Rudy and Ryan, and Zach and Felipe. So right there is going to be our matchup.
Yeah, so fun matchup here. So Zach Bivens is there on the right. Zach, for those who don't know, recently launched his own YouTube channel. Put his first video up going over Steel Song, one of the lists that he's known for. So you should go check that out. Very talented player. Felipe also has, we watched him play today. Very talented player, great list. We've got an Emerald Steel list on the right, played by Zach, which I think is one of the decks that people think is going to be really good this time around in the meta. It's a deck that a lot of people are hot on. So it'll be fun to watch it work here. And then over on the left, Felipe is running another. If you liked the hyper aggro deck that we saw last round, you're going to see another one here.
Nice.
Because Amber Amethyst tends to be a hyper aggro color, trying to win fast. So I will say, though, unfortunately for Felipe, this deck oftentimes likes to go wide with low willpower, high lore characters like that. Low willpower, high lore on turn 1. And unfortunately against Steel just has a lot of the answers that to deal with that, including, big tinks, grab your swords, and other targeted damage spells or cards. So we'll see how well Felipe is able to rush to victory here.
Yeah, as much as I enjoyed playing my my Amber aggro deck, I ran, like, every time I would hit a Steel, someone playing Steel, it's like, well, this is going to be a nightmare for me. So hopefully,
Yeah.
I mean, Felipe's made it as far, made it to the final force already. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he can take it.
Yeah, he's run into some Steel today. I mean, there's so many Steel decks at this tournament. So he's run into some Steel today and has proven to be successful thus far. So
Look at that. That's
this-
a turn
this-
2 3 lore character. I mean, that's wild.
I do think that this is the most lore you could possibly have on the table by turn 2. So this is, probably where he wants to be.
All right, we have Bucky on the table now. One of my favorite cards.
And a Befuddle, removing that character there, which is, that's big. Now Felipe can quest with his 2 characters and not worry about being challenged. Bucky, of course, could come in and remove a character, but that's not something that Zach would love to do. I think he may be happy to do it to get rid of that Pinocchio. Maybe not. Actually has a song I think he can sing here as well to remove that Pinocchio. But, of course, Felipe would be happy for that Bucky not to be there.
I see Akita there from the third set into the Inklands. I love her flavor text. It's in Atlantean.
That was so cool that Ravensburger did that.
And there we go. Bucky into Pinocchio. And Kit Cloud Kicker. Kit Cloud Kicker is a card that is doing work this set. I think people thought that it was going to be good. What Kit Cloud Kicker?
Saying that 3 times fast is so difficult.
You can't.
Kit
I
Cloud
can't say
Kicker.
it one time slow.
Yeah.
It comes in on turn 3, and it allows you to send a character with strength 2 or less back to your opponent's hand. And I think people realized that this was going to be a somewhat decent card, but it's done so much work in the meta so far. It is appearing in so many deck lists because not only is it good on curve, bouncing something your opponent's trying to get on the board early, but it's even good late game. It can bounce an Ursula, so it's been doing work.
Yeah. And I believe we saw when the Storm Rage on, or let the Storm Rage on.
Yeah, as Liam was saying, this combination on the right here, this Emerald Steel, I feel like has become really popular in the current meta, and I feel like we keep seeing this deck pop up every time we turn around. But it's really cool because it's so versatile. It can go in so many different directions. It can deal with so many different types of decks. And so and it just functions, I feel like, differently from the Ruby Amethyst that we had seen for so long.
Yeah, I believe we saw an Emerald Steel deck do pretty well down in Houston. And that was mostly a discard deck, which I saw get played, and now all I want to do is have a discard deck. So maybe you get a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and make it happen.
Yeah, that's true. And I have a thought on that. I want to, comment on what's happened here. Zach managed to clear the board with the Grab Your Swords, really gain control of the board state here and kind of slow Felipe down. Felipe's sitting at 9 lore, so going to be a bit of a clawback, but the deck's capable of doing it. Right now, with losing that Bucky, Zach's kind of lost the ability to pressure Felipe's hand a bit, so perhaps Felipe can get back into this. So the discard deck that we saw, we did see a lot of discard decks in the last season. And some of them leaned hard into like combos with Bucky, and some of them were just general discard decks, but most of them, the win condition was generally hand depletion. The steel emerald decks that we see now, like this one played by Zach, are slightly different in that they have cards that force you to discard, Bucky and some others, but they're not focused necessarily on completely removing every card from your hand. That's not their win condition.
Yeah.
They apply pressure to the board, but they also apply pressure to your hand simultaneously. So it's annoying and it can slow you down. And it's definitely part of this deck strategy, but they're not discard decks in the way that we saw them last season.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Wow, that is a lot of characters out right now for Zach. He's got Sad Boy Beast. He's got so was that Morph shifted into Beast, or was that Morph just sitting there waiting to be shifted into something?
I think Morph is waiting to be shifted into something. I think if he were shifted into Beast, he would be underneath Beast.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think we've seen him shift just yet.
All right, so
and now it doesn't look like he's going to.
Yeah, Befuddle just pushes that Morph right back to Zach's hand. Poor Baloo's got a lot of work to do.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
All right, and there's Bucky again. Morph got 8
Bucky,
this time.
You know what, Jack? I can never hear of Bucky without thinking about you anymore. Just the I don't know why. Just we talked about Bucky so often at Houston. We talked about going to Bucky's because we're here in Texas. For those of you who are not familiar with Bucky's, it is the greatest rest stop, maybe,
Yeah, it's a gas station.
of all time.
It's a gas station.
Yeah.
All right, Zach.
Anyway, so now I
taking
think
it.
of you every time we talk about Bucky.
Nice. I appreciate that. I'll take that. I'll take that. So Zach
Okay.
taking the first win right there. One match away, one game away from entering the finals.
Yeah.
On their way towards that $1,000 shared pool.
And again, like I just think this is a tough matchup, you know, for the aggro deck here, just because of grab your swords, I think is the big one. You know, there are other cards that make steal, you know, a problem for, you know, aggro decks. There's the targeted removal spells. Let the Storm Rage on is a great one. But it's grab your swords, which clear the board. And it's not just that it clears the board. Steel got a lot of cards this set. For example, the Robin Hood Shift package that we saw earlier, which allow you to grab your sword so early that they can really ruin your momentum, you know, very quickly. You know, ideally, for example, if and I have to take a look at Zach's list again, but if he's running Robin Hood, and I'm pretty sure he is, a Robin Hood turn 1 allows you to shift on turn 3 and play grab your swords on turn 3. So Felipe, even if especially if he's on the play now, has 3 turns worth of, you know, his a turn 1 character, turn 2 character, turn 3 character on the board. All of them probably have fairly low willpower because they're built to get lore quickly. And on turn 3, Zach is able to do 2 damage to all of Felipe's characters. So it's a huge hurdle to overcome. And I bet you that's the line that Zach is going to be looking for this game. Especially as he's on the draw.
Steel is just mean, is what it comes down to. That's pretty much like, yeah, something about that. The targeted damage with Steel, and just now it just feels like Steel gets more and more powerful. I don't know if it's me or if it's you know, the actual game itself, but I always feel like Steel hurts me quite a bit. All right, we got another Lilo out on the board. That poor.
Yeah, and again, this is the start, you know, Felipe wants. He wants high lore characters early. And of course we see Zach with the Robin Hood, again setting up that Robin Hood shift on turn 3.
Okay, Felipe's.
Let's see.
Yeah, but it's fun watching the state of the game slow down as we get further and further into these tournaments.
This is a good turn 3. This is a card that you know, that Amber got this set. Wendy on turn 3 or on turn 2 has 2 lore but 3 willpower. And as we mentioned before, that 3rd willpower is like critical against grab your swords and several other cards that Steel runs. So yeah, fantastic card to play on turn 3 this game. So Zach, what Zach's doing right now, he played Ursula Deceiver, who allows Zach to look at Philippe's hand, pick a song to discard, but Philippe, no legal targets there. There's no songs in hand, and so Zach is left empty-handed, but he does get a ton of free information there.
All right,
there goes Befuddle, removing the Robin Hood.
Yeah, I think Befuddle is one of the cards that my wife saw for the first time. I was like, oh, wait, there's Sword in the Stone in this game? It's like, heck yeah, there is. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Now, this is a great opening. I think this is a very, very good opening for Philippe. And the Befuddle on the Robin Hood, again, the reason that's important, part of it is to protect, you know, Lilo this turn. But the other big part of it is, and then we lost Kick Cloud Kicker again coming in. I'll get to that thought in a second. Kick Cloud Kicker coming in, doing work, removing the bodyguard, allowing Ursula to go in and challenge Lilo. So Kit doing work again. But removing the Robin Hood got rid of the shift target for the 3rd turn Robin Hood, which could then sing grab your sword. So befuddling that Robin Hood, that shift target, is a big play.
And we got a location on the table. I believe that's Pride Rock.
It's Neverland, Mermaid Lagoon.
That's what I said. Pride Rock.
There's a rock in it. It is similar.
Yeah. Again, these are new cards, everyone. We're still learning these.
Yes, and we don't have, you know, to give us a little bit of pass too. I mean, we're looking at, you know, our monitors, and so it's hard to see these super clearly. But
running an HDMI cable halfway across the country was not going to work out this time. So
I love these early locations in these aggro decks. I think that they're a great way to scoop up passive lore, and their high willpower, for their relative cost, means that they're difficult to remove, and they often stick around while your opponent's busy dealing with your character. So I'm a fan. We'll see how much work they get done here now that Zach has managed to clear some of the characters off the board.
All right, another location has been dropped. Queen's Castle is on the board.
And Queen's Castle is just so good. I mean, the critical stat right now on Queen's Castle is that 7 willpower, which makes it so difficult to remove. Sad Beast, Beast Tragic Hero.
He's so sad.
Now coming down, which is there we go. 2 characters questing removing Mermaid Lagoon. Beast is a great card for Zach this turn. I mean, he's playing it, on curve, and it'll give him some extra cards, but gives him a little bit more strength to remove that castle, which will be helpful next turn.
And so that Beast, Tragic Hero, I think is still the most valuable card in all of the Floodborn packs, like the Floodborn set, aside from Enchanted, obviously. But yeah, why is that card so loved?
Card draw.
Yeah,
it's card draw, Jack. The TCG 101, one of the base rules is more cards is better. Anytime a card gives you extra cards, and has the ability to do that more than once when it's on the field, it's just good. So it's
All right, there you go.
And it got even better this set with Morph. Beast didn't have a good shift target last set, and still doesn't have his own, dedicated shift target. But now in this particular color combination, Morph is out there as a turn 2 play, which allows you to get Beast out even earlier. So not only did it stay as good as it was before, it got a card that made him just a little bit better.
You gotta love those combinations, those mental combinations of like, okay, Morph from Treasure Planet and Beast from Beauty and the Beast. Like, that's, I don't know, kind of eerie to me, but I love it. I love it. I see Pascal out there. Gotta love some Pascal.
I do love Pascal. All right. So now, Felipe with a spellbook out there. I don't think that Zach is running any item removal in this deck. I know he's not running Benja, and I don't believe he's running the action whose name I can't remember, but it has the Titans. The Titans action that removes items. I don't think those are in here. So spellbook is on the table to stay. So that's 1 lore per turn for Felipe. So now he's just looking to gain, anything he can off the characters he drops on the board. He's going to drop them. He's probably going to quest them, let him get removed, and just claw himself as close to 20 as he can and use Spellbook to push himself over the edge. Zach has some answers here. In fact, I see, a couple in his hand right now, and I think he's trying to figure out what the best sequence here to play these is, and there's one. Along came Zeus. Felipe indicating no cards in hand, so you can look at my hand, but all you're going to see is my fingers.
To see my palms. And there we go. Zach is starting to take some swings, getting that lore. And Felipe is top decking at this point, meaning they draw and hope.
Quest Spellbook, 2 lore, bringing him to 15. And a Befuddle. Bring the Pascal back in a ready position, so it can't be challenged.
Nice, smart play. Yeah, you gotta love. I love stuff like that where it's like you see cards that feel like they're meant to be played, on your opponent, and people playing them for themselves. So something like Befuddle, where return a character item cost of 2 or less to their player's hand, you could do that for yourself, and we saw that happen just there with Pascal.
Yeah, fun little play, and way to think outside the box. And Strength of Raging Fire, used to remove Pascal, and then quest for a significant amount, 7. We'll see in a second. Taking Zach, 1 turn from victory here.
And he's got a location, and I believe that'll be it. Let's wait for the handshake to confirm the match is over. Yeah. Is it gonna happen? Are we gonna get a handshake? Are they so focused on moving on? No fist bumps. There we go, fist bump. All right, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'm glad that my energy carried across states. So Zach is going to move on to our final match.
Yeah, Woo. These are great games. Again, credit to both players. They're both running excellent lists. Felipe had played an excellent day. Has an excellent list. I do think, sometimes in the meta we see, this kind of rock, paper, scissors type thing or maybe add Lizard Spock in there as well, where, there's different decks that are matched up well against, certain decks and poorly against others. And unfortunately, it's hyper aggro against Steel is a rough matchup. So I think Felipe had a great day and a very good list, a very good hyper aggro list, played it very, very well. Just a tough matchup. And congrats on a top 4 finish and after a long day. Very well done.
And we talked about that before when we were down in Houston doing our tournament down there. These guys have been playing since 1 o'clock our times. They've been playing for 6 hours. And so that is mentally draining. Like, these guys have been at GSG out in Charlotte, sitting there playing card games for 6 hours. And, over time, this isn't something where you can kind of put on autopilot. You have to react and play your opponents. And so you're constantly thinking, your brain is going the whole time. And if you're not well fed, if you don't have the energy to do it, you might stumble, you might make a mistake that you wouldn't normally make. And there you go. And suddenly your chance at winning that lion's share of the $1,000 could go away. So it's very, very important that these guys stay well hydrated, well fed, get lots of electrolytes in them, all that other stuff. Let's take a look at the bracket right now. So we know that Zach is moving on to the finals. Right now, we're waiting for the matchup between Rudy and Ryan to determine who's going to be playing against Zach in the final here in just a little bit. Man, I'm pumped. I'm always excited to see what's going to happen with the tournament and see who's going to make it to that final matchup. And you can see here, they're very kind of us. So again, we're in Austin, Texas. They are out in Charlotte, North Carolina, and our friends over there, they actually left us a "Be Right Back" sign. So thank you very much to our friends out in North Carolina. That's very kind of them. So anyway, how are you feeling about Inkland so far? Is it doing everything you thought it was going to do? Are the locations going to bust up the meta? Well, how do you feel about Inkland so far, Liam?
I love this set. I love this set so much. Floodborne was a great set. Floodborne felt kind of like a continuation of the first chapter. It did some new stuff. It introduced resist, but it largely felt like Floodborne and first chapter kind of blended together to me a little bit. And I feel like now that Inklands is out, we're getting the full Lorcana experience with locations and some fun new mechanics and some new franchises. And I love this set so much.
Yeah. It feels like, from what I understand, from what I've gathered, Ravensburger, when they were developing Lorcana, they developed the first 3 chapters side by side, basically. So they knew kind of what the first half year of Lorcana would look like when they were printing it all up, and they started adding sets 4, 5, and 6, and so forth and so on. So they had to know, I do appreciate that they kind of slow dripped more mechanics into the game as they got further along. And not shockingly, we had a deck of Ruby Amethyst in Floodborne that sort of overtook everything. Once people kind of cracked, this is how you win the game, we saw so many people playing that. But now that's not working anymore. We're seeing that deck is just getting overrun. So it's like, okay. And I mean, maybe ultimately we'll find another deck that kind of is the supreme deck, the meta deck, as they say. But I love the idea that more things are out there. You have to combat against more things. You have to think about more stuff. There's 204 new cards in the set right now that could absolutely wreck your day if you had a deck that you were perfectly happy with. But now, put all that away. Time to maybe not go from scratch, but certainly you're starting something fresh.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It is just so fun every time a new set gets out to see players, crafting, experimenting in the lab, trying to figure out, are the old decks still good? How can we make them better? And then how can I make something completely new, something, that's fresh, go to a tournament, break it out, and catch people by surprise with a new brew that nobody's expecting. And we're kind of in that phase right now where people are experimenting, and it's a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know for me, watching these players play and seeing how locations are, just kind of they're showing up. They're maybe not, no one's leaning heavily on them yet, but we're seeing them out there. And especially, last season with Floodborne, we were watching things like Be Prepared just wipe entire players' hands. But now with locations, they just stay there. There's no one to get rid of except maybe some mermaids, I guess, in the lagoon. But they're not going anywhere. The locations stay. That lore stays on the table. So you might cast the Be Prepared, and then suddenly, all right, they're still picking up 4 or 5 lore every turn until I can do something about that. So I like that a lot. I like maybe surprising people, and I hope we might see some weird, unique decks that aren't sort of like, part of the meta. I think maybe we'll see some of that happen where someone comes out of left field with something no one was thinking about and really overtakes. And I think with the amount of cards they've added, I think we actually have that opportunity now.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I do think we've yet to see some of the brand new novel decks that we're going to see come out after Inklands. I've seen some people playing around and brewing some stuff. There's a great pirate location deck that's out there floating around. Earlmeister on Twitter has been piloting it and talking about it a lot, so you can go check that out. So there are some weird off the what's the right metaphor? Off the beaten path decks that we've yet to see. And we did see some today, actually. We saw Nicholas was running earlier today this really fun Amethyst Sapphire ramp deck, which didn't make the top 8. He said he misplayed and ran into some very skilled opponents and barely missed the cut. But I watched it win some matches, and it was a lot of fun to watch, and that was new. So maybe I don't know. Yeah. I can't wait to see more.
I mean, I'm curious now. So we've seen, I enjoy watching more cards get added to certain types. So for example, we've seen brooms in every single deck or every single release so far. So first chapter, we saw brooms, which are from Fantasia, and then Floodborne, we saw a variant of the broom. And now with Inklands, now we got 3 more brooms. So you can play 5 different variants of brooms, and then Mickey Mouse from the very first chapter makes brooms cost less. So you could throw a whole bunch of Mickeys out there. Maybe we'll see a broom deck. And I'm also curious now, are they done with brooms? Are we going to see brooms in the next expansion? That's always my favorite thing. How can we get another Starkey into this thing? And who at Ravensburger is so in love with Starkey that we keep getting Starkey cards? Did anyone know who Starkey was before this game? Someone at Ravensburger did, I guess, because we keep getting Starkey, and it's crazy to me. But
yeah, you're right. There's somebody up there who's like, we need this character all the times.
Oh man. Well, we are right now just waiting for the next. I think we're waiting for the other Final Four match to wrap up between Ryan and Rudy. And so once that one wraps up, we'll have our final locked in. One of those 2 players, one of the R guys, Rudy or Ryan, will play against Zach in our final, and we will see who walks away with the championship here at the GSG 1K tournament out in Charlotte, North Carolina. Ooh.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great game. I know we're both excited, Jack. Anytime you get to see, no matter the deck, if it's a deck you've seen 100 times before, or if it's a deck you're seeing for the first time, whenever you get to see a deck piloted by a very skilled player, who knows what they're doing, who knows the deck inside and out, it's like watching a master at work. And so both on the top bracket, I know we've got 2 players, or in the top half of the bracket, who are very talented. We got to see, the Ruby Amethyst player already, Rudy, do some work. Very skilled player. Ryan, I think we saw earlier today, another fantastic player. And then, Zach Bivens is a player we've been following for quite a while now. Former Pokemon champion, I believe, or ranked Pokemon player, very experienced in TCGs, and has really made a splash in the Lorcana scene since it's come on. And so he'll be playing in the finals. And so we're going to get to see super high caliber Lorcana play. And the opportunity to get to see 2 players like this, sitting across the table from each other, not over a screen, not through a webcam, but sitting across the table from each other, looking each other in the eyes, and playing Lorcana at the highest level is not something you get to see very often. So bottom line is I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'm very happy now that we're at a place where we can actually cover these matches. You know, like that was one thing before, because a lot of the stuff, you know, you would go to your local tournament and then that would be it. It would just be the people in the room. But now people like us are getting to cast these things, and now we've cracked the nut on figuring out how to do these things remotely, so we can start doing this more often and start seeing different players from all over the country. I know we've got the official Ravensburger tournament coming at some point, probably this year, and so we're going to start seeing some of these top players. So now this might be an opportunity to watch someone like Zach, who maybe will move on. He's made it to the final here. He might be someone coming out of that North Carolina region that might move on to some of these larger competitions once they do come into play. We've got guys in Central Texas as well that we have seen in person do very, very well. It's like, okay, someone like Aaron, who's like a local guy here, it's like, okay, that guy will probably go pretty far in the actual full-blown legit tournaments, because these guys dedicate their time to studying the studying the game, studying the lore, studying the strategy, and it's a lot of fun to watch these guys go head to head. And so now we're going to be able to bring this stuff to you wherever it may be coming from. So that being said, if you're watching this right now and you want us to cast a tournament for you, let us know. Feel free to reach out to us. I'm jacklikesthings@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter as well. And and where can they find you guys?
Oh, we are. We're at Illumiteers on most platforms. Twitter, our main avenue is YouTube. We cover all things Lorcana. Feel free to follow along with what we're doing. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And so hopefully we're going to do a lot more of this as we come along. All I know is my big thing is we've got a unique Stitch card coming out next month, April. We're getting a Stitch enchanted card that you can only get if you place, I believe, in the top 4 of your local tournaments, and only at certain locations, which is wild to me and makes me very sad, because I am not someone who will make a top 4 finish at my local tournaments. Also because we have some really, really solid players in the Central Texas area. So unless I can fly to like Idaho or somewhere, no offense to Idaho, I just don't know how strong the scene is up in that area. Not the Pacific, not Pacific Northwest. I imagine Seattle area is probably pretty busy too. Just move in towards Idaho and Montana and the Dakotas. Maybe I'll have a shot, but it's going to be tricky to get anywhere near the top 4. And so for those of you who might not understand what I'm talking about, Liam, do you want to explain what I mean by Enchanted Stitch?
Sure. So I know we have some experienced Lorcana players watching right now, and we also have some people who are new to the game. So enchanted cards are a variation of, Lorcana cards in the game. There are, your normal cards, and all cards come in like a normal variety. There's 204 in each set, and then above that, there's a foil version of each card, which are shinier, a little flashier. But then in each set, there are 12. In the first 2 sets there were 12. In the most recent set there are more that are done in a full art manner with special foiling and new art, and they're just delightful.
So I can give an example here. So for example,
let's do it.
We've got Alice Growing Girl. So this card you see here in the upper right side of your screen, that is the normal variant of that card. It's a legendary card, great looking card. But then you've got an alternate version of that card, which is the enchanted version, which is this one right here. So that's full art, very, very beautiful foil, and it is such a very, very nice card. And those are the chase cards you hear about people going for. So the odds of pulling this, if you would have asked me before, I'd have said pretty much you get 1 out of a case, which is 4 boxes, which is about 1 out of 96. But this past week, or actually literally a week ago yesterday, I opened up a case of Inklands, which is the new expansion. No enchanteds for Jack. That was pretty heartbreaking. Pretty heartbreaking. I opened 104 packs in one night. Goose egg with my enchanteds. So if anyone's out there with a morph they're looking to get rid of, let me know. I will gladly take a morph off your hand, enchanted morph off your hand. But
I felt for you.
It hurt.
That's such, and I'm sure, the whole time you're thinking, all right, the longer is a gambler's fallacy, right? Like the longer you go, you're like, all right, now I'm due. Now I'm due.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, actually, I went out yesterday to our local game shop and I picked up another box. So I have another box I'm probably going to crack tomorrow. So if you want to watch, twitch.tv/Jack Patillo. Where are you watching? If you're watching this live right now, tomorrow it'll be right here, streaming live again at some point. Maybe in the morning, not sure when, but I have to pull an Enchanted. Otherwise, I'm throwing a cat out the window. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Cooper's asleep now, so he's no longer commentating with us. All right, we are waiting now to hear who is going to be competing up against Zach in the finals. We got between Ryan and Rudy. Remember, we saw Rudy win that first match versus Xavier or Javier. I'm not sure. I think it'd be Xavier, right? With an X?
I think so.
Yeah, Javier is usually with a J. Well, not 100% positive. So as soon as we get that matchup live and ready to go, we'll let you guys know.
Yeah,
Hey,
sorry.
I see Cajun Dreams in chat. Thank you very much. Hi to a random dude. Saw you at RTX Austin last July. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming out, Cajun Dreams. Hopefully you're enjoying some Lorcana here. We are in between matches, in between rounds, as we work our way to the finals. And we're keeping an eye on the final table there, keeping an eye on Discord, where we're talking with our friends out in North Carolina. Or excuse me, yeah, North Carolina. That's where Charlotte is. I've flown through there a number of times.
Yeah. Every time I said it today, I did a double take down in my head. I'm like, it's North Carolina, not South Carolina, right? Literally every time.
Yeah.
And
So-
yeah,
Cool airport. They
So-
have rocking chairs in their airport there for some reason.
they do.
Yeah.
I like that airport. It's a nice airport.
Yeah, used
Of
to
all
like
the airports to be.
well when I would fly to Orlando from Austin, I would usually have to stop in Charlotte and work my way down. But now, thankfully, there's a direct flight from Austin out to Orlando when I go out to visit Disney World and whatnot, and all my theme parks. So that's good times.
Yeah. This is great. I appreciate anybody hanging out with us tonight. I will say, don't go anywhere, because the games we're about to see are going to be some of the best Lorcana games you'll get to see. Very high caliber players, as we said earlier. Piloting some top tier decks. In the burgeoning Inklands meta. So yeah, it'll be a really fun matchup. Whoever comes out of the top half of the bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to it. We're talking with our friends out there, seeing how far away we are from the final pairing. And so as soon as we get that, we will be broadcasting it live. But oof. So what do you think is your favorite card so far in the Inklands expansion? And why is it Morph?
Oh, why is it Morph? Morph, I don't know. This is such a tough question, because there's so many things that come into play, right? Like gameplay or art, or feel or nostalgia. I'm going to give you two answers, and they're probably weird. The first one I'm going to say is the Enchanted Sorcerer's Hat. And it's partly because I love the art. I love that it's a classic Disney item, and the fact that they did it the way they did. It's just beautiful. And it's also the artist. Luis Huerta is a dear friend of ours and a fantastic person. And to see him get an Enchanted card just like warmed my heart. So by the way, if you're watching this and you want to follow Luis, he streams regularly on Twitch. His handle is @GammetFeathers. Fantastic artist. You won't be sad, if you like art and kind of zoning out and watching somebody draw and listening to them chat. Fantastic person. The other one I'll say is just completely random, and it's completely because I saw her in foil the other day, and the art just blew me away. And it's Perdita.
Oh, okay.
It's a legendary. I know it's not going to make a lot of competitive lists right now, but it's beautiful, and they did this cool thing in the text box with leaves. And I love it so much.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I personally.
What about you? And why is it Morph?
Morph is fantastic. I love Morph. Treasure Planet's great, and so it's funny because Morph was actually announced pretty early when they were sort of teasing the cards coming out, and then jokingly I was like, "Oh, we better get an Enchanted Morph," and it was like, then we got an Enchanted Morph. So again, he's my chase card for this set, just because he's Morph, and I gotta love Morph. I have a beef with the Sorcerer's Hat, by the way. I worked at Walt Disney World for a while, and I worked at Disney MGM Studios at the Great Movie Ride, which was situated directly behind this giant replica of the Sorcerer's Hat that they put up and blocked our beautiful theater with this big hat that they sold pins out of. So it's gone now, thankfully. But yeah, so I will forever have beef with that hat. As a specific hat. When Mickey's wearing it, good to go. But as an item, as an object, not a big fan. As far as other cards go, I love the foil version of Firebird. That is such a beautiful card. I pulled that one pretty early when I was going through the cards, and that one, it just looks so good. It's just a really, really beautiful piece of art. And yeah, that's and really any of it, like all of the Treasure Planet characters are great. All the Jim Hawkins are great. Like Jim just looks so cool. And the idea of like Jim Hawkins being a character that can move between locations is such a clever thing, because like, oh yeah, he's got a solar sailor, so he can do that if he wants to. And so yeah, there you go. And so I love that they are taking that into account when it comes to actually the characters doing the things that make sense to them. So that is a very, even like Morph, for example, the fact that Morph can shift into anyone. It's like, yeah, because that's what Morph does. Like Morph takes the form of other people. And so the idea that Morph can be anyone and then someone can shift onto him is such a cool, clever concept. I see in McKendry in chat saying hashtag bring back the hat. No, please don't. That hat. Do you know, we're getting into some theme park dorkery here. So do you know the magic hat that was at Disney MGM Studios, now Disney's Hollywood Studios, initially was going to be outside of the park, and the ears on the hat were going to be Ferris wheels. It was going to be about 4 times larger than it actually ended up being, and the ears were going to be Ferris wheels. And so I think initially it lived at Disney Springs and then moved over to Disney MGM Studios, and then eventually ended up in front of the hat and in front of the Chinese theater. So yeah, it's I've got beef. I've got historic beef with that one.
You've let it go.
Yeah. The Disney fans hold grudges.
When you pull the Enchanted in your next box, like, I'm happy to take that scar tissue out of your binder, and you can pass it along to me, and I'll take good care of it.
That's true. That is true. I am happy that I got the enchanted Merlin through trading with a friend, or not Merlin, the enchanted Arthur from Floodborne after trading with a friend, and then actually having the artist sign it too, which was super, super cool. I have the third enchanted Arthur that person has ever signed. Isn't that cool?
I think it's cool. I love it. It's like history. And Jake Parker's fantastic. Fantastic artist. Lorcana has some amazing artists. Jake Parker has a pretty storied career so far, and is actually the inventor of the Inktober drawing challenge. Pretty famous art challenge has been going on for many years. Started by Jake Parker, who's now a Lorcana artist. So the caliber of artists they bring into this game, both at the start of their careers, mid-career, and late career, are just fantastic.
Nice.
And we're seeing some of that art now on the table.
That's true. So it sounds like that Rudy has advanced to the finals. So we're going to see Zach versus Rudy in our final two players going for the championship down there in Charlotte, North Carolina, GSG Games. So if you're ever out there, say hi, tell them we sent you. Yeah, I just want to point out this Arthur here. So such a beautiful card. I love it. And I love too that the art carries through the text box down at the bottom as well. That is so neat. And we are kind of seeing that now. I've noticed that in a few, I think, legendaries from Inklands. You get that where the art does continue down, like a little bit transparent underneath the text box. So, and I also noticed that with the Scrooge, Uncle Scrooge cards, the foil variants of that card actually have dollar signs in the foil, which is such a cool little touch, and something that I'm psyched that they're doing stuff like that. We might get to see more stuff like that.
No, I mean, you're absolutely right. The creative team, and I shout them out all the time. I'm going to do it again here. When we talk about the creation of Lorcana right now, there's 4 horsemen that we talk about, and the 2 that a lot of people know about are Steve Warner and Ryan Miller, one of the game designers, and then Ryan Miller, who's the game designer and brand ambassador for the game. They're public faces of this game, and they're always out there, and they're pretty well known, and everybody loves them. Also pretty well known, though, is Shane Hartley, the creative lead for the game. And he has a whole team who work to help design the look and the feel of the game, from the card frames down to the packaging and the logo, everything. And, the work that the creative team did, along with the art team to bring this game to life, is just fantastic. The fourth horseman, by the way, I would say is John Grant, who's the organized play lead. And it's unfair to single any of them out by name because there's just so many wonderful people working on this game. But those are four that really rise to the top to me, that make Lorcana what it is. But to your point, Jack, the creative team really flexed their muscle this set. They did some great stuff in the first couple sets, just getting the game out there, making beautiful card frames, beautiful packaging, beautiful art. But this set, they did some really fun things, from frame breaks that we're seeing in the cards now, where the art kind of leaves the art window, and then fun foiling treatments on Scrooge, and I believe there's another one, and I'm forgetting who it is, but there's another one with some fun foil. And then in the card boxes, behind the text, you have different patterns, like on Scrooge with the coins, or Perdita with the leaves. And then the enchanteds, are kicked up a notch this set and have a cohesive design with like the oil painting motif, and I could go on, but and the puppies. The puppies are another one that I think was unplanned, but when they saw for the variants of the tail wagger puppies, the story I heard was that there wasn't necessarily supposed to be 5 different variants at first, but when they got the concept art, they were like, all these concepts are great. We don't know which one is best. Let's just do them all. So the creative team is really they've let loose a little bit this set, and it's so cool to see what they've done. And I can't wait to see, where this goes in later sets, because they're showing some real creativity, as you would expect in Into the Inklands. Sorry.
Take a breath there. I was able to almost get a full tweet out while you were still talking. So, all right,
that was my goal.
They're rolling for who goes first right now, for who's going to be on the draw and who's going to be on the play. All right.
I missed 2-1. It was very fast. Yeah, sorry. Anytime I get talking about Shane Hartley and the creative team, I fanboy a little bit.
All right, Rudy is going first. So Rudy is on the play. And with that, so they're going through the mulligan phase right now. So those of you who don't know what this is, basically you get to look, you draw 7 cards, and you can put back as many cards as you want to into your deck and draw new cards just once, reshuffle your deck, and then begin the game. So if there's a strategy you're going for, or there's certain cards that maybe like you've got a bunch of cards that are uninkable, you can put them back and then draw new cards and then begin to play. So that's the phase they're going through right now. And then Rudy will kick it off here in just a moment. We're doing it. Liam, it's happening. We're into the finals.
Yeah. So it looks like Rudy is going first, it looks like.
Yeah, indeed. So Zach will be on the draw. I see we got a Hornets fan. Zach's a Hornets fan. And Rudy is I think a Hercules shirt, maybe?
No.
Or is
that's
it's a Lion King?
It is. It's Hakuna Matata.
Okay. Wow.
I love it.
Hakuna Matata, that is the shirt worn by the most fathers ever at Animal Kingdom. If you ever go to Animal Kingdom, you'll see the red Hakuna Matata shirt. All right, here we go. And we're off. Rudy is going to go first. I see, is this, I believe, Ruby Amethyst versus Steel Emerald?
That's correct.
Look at me knowing the words. Knowing the different deck types now. I'm getting there. Aren't you proud of me?
I am. No, you very well. Very good.
Okay.
So this is an interesting matchup. This is Chernobog's Minions there for a turn 1 play. New card from Into the Inklands. So this is an interesting matchup here. The Ruby Amethyst is a lot more, it's a control deck. It can go quickly, but it's happy if the game takes a little longer to allow it to get to turn 7 so it can play Be Prepared. Also, Rudy has some locations that, he'll drop near the end of the game to collect passive lore while he keeps control of the board. We saw that play out, in the quarterfinals. Zach, on the other hand, is this deck is mid-rangey, so it can operate okay. So what I mean by mid-range is it's a game that operates. It's going to sound confusing, but against aggro deck, it operates as a control deck, so it tries to, control the board against an aggro deck. Against a control deck, it tries to be more aggressive. So it tries to undercut the a control deck, which Ruby Amethyst is, or it tries to be it tries to be more aggressive than the control deck, or it tries to control the aggressive deck. It's kind of this weird deck that sits in the middle. If that made any sense.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
So what Zach is thinking about here is this, and the Bucky is emblematic of what he wants to do. What the Steel Emerald deck does is this deck applies pressure both on the board with, some targeted removal, as we saw against, the aggro deck, but then it also applies a pressure against the hand. There's a couple cards. Ursula is one, which allows you to remove one song card from your opponent's hand, and then Bucky is another, which forces your opponent to discard anytime a Floodborn is played, which can slowly eat away at your opponent's hand. So one of the things in Zach's game plan likely is I want to get a Bucky on the board, and then, throughout the game, I'm going to play, Floodborn here and there to remove, 1, 2, 3, 4 cards from my opponent's hand. And that does a couple things. One, it does get rid of options, right? It gets rid of things that you can play. But the other thing is, in this game, the cards in your hand are your ink resource. So if Zach can slow down, Rudy enough by getting rid of enough cards and preventing him from getting to turn 7 with anything left in his hand, then that turn 7 be prepared kind of play becomes a lot less palatable. So one of the things Zach is thinking, all that is to say, one of the things that Zach is thinking about here, I think, is how can I, maximize the pressure on Rudy's hand to prevent him from executing his late game game plan. Of course, singing Friends from the Other Side there is exactly the thing that Rudy wants to do in this scenario, to draw some extra cards, to give himself, a little bit of breathing space as Zach forces him to discard.
Yeah, just be able to brace for that impact is going to be coming.
Exactly.
All right, we got a Prince Eric on the board. One of the newer cards. I love the art in that one.
It is fantastic.
And I do appreciate that Rudy and Zach were kind enough to match with their playmats with their shirts, so that worked out really, really well. We got a good color scheme. We got a nice red versus blue thing happening here, and I'm sure they took that into account.
I like to think they did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with you.
Oh, that's a really nice looking marker too for Rudy. His hand marker you can see in the top there. That's really pretty. I love all the secondary stuff that you're seeing pop up around, lore counters, deck boxes, all this stuff that people are really diving into when it comes to Lorcana.
It is fun. What is fun to see, kind of like with the hand counter there, is everybody has their own play style, their way to play, their own accessories, and you can really, express yourself through, the accessories you choose to bring to the table, the playmat, the sleeves, everything else. And I love that, card games allowed for that. Every deck, two people may be playing the same deck, but with different sleeves, different playmat, different deck boxes, different accessories. It kind of, you present differently, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah. I love the different styles we get. It's great. It's good times. All right, Ursula's going hunting for a song.
That is true, and in the absence of a song, at least you get information.
That's true. No songs to be found. Rudy is not a singing type person.
Not yet.
I see Googly in chat says, I came here to see Zach play Steel Song. What is this?
Yeah, no, this is a Steel Emerald deck that Zach's been playing today, and that's one of the things that makes these local tournaments so fun, is that there's a little less pressure to play, maybe your top deck or the deck you're most confident in. You can go in, with a deck that you're experimenting with, that you want to gain some experience with, and still, do very well. And so that's one of the fun things about seeing these local metas, is players trying fun things, like Zach playing, not a Steel Song deck.
And so Rudy picking up a little bit more lore there at 4-0 for Zach at the moment. But like we've seen in so many Lorcana matches, this can swing so quickly. You think you can be within, moments of grasping victory and just watching your opponent and just chip away at you until suddenly all is lost. Speaking of which, there's Sad Boy Beast on the board.
Sad Beast, such a good card. Such a good card. Now, one of the things that Rudy has over there, that new Prince Eric, is a great removal option for cards like Sad Beast. When Prince Eric is banished, he can banish a chosen character. And so it's a great way to get rid of a ready character that your opponent perhaps is leaving, not vulnerable by exerting them. So, and then here we have another card from this set. Madame Medusa, who, when she comes into play, can banish a character with strength 3 or less. And Beast, again, is a. I think that Beast is probably the most targeted 3 lore character by Madame Medusa in the meta right now. And we're seeing it there again.
Yeah, and there we go. There's Dreadnought on the table.
Dreadnought is a Floodborn. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jack.
I just love the art for Dreadnought.
I do. Cam Kendall really killed it with that one. And this one, of course, is a Floodborn, which will trigger Bucky, which will force Rudy to discard a card.
Okay, so Rudy's thinking about it. Gets rid of a Fox. Shay in chat saying, is there a way to find deck lists for this tournament? I don't know if they've been released yet, but typically for things like this, they will pop up. So we'll let you know if we find out more information.
Yeah, and I think we have most of them. Hit Jack or I up on Twitter. I'm sure the shop will share them, and if they don't, let us send us a note, and we'll see if we can share them on Twitter, because I think we have them.
All right, here we go. It's finals here. The GSG game tournament 1K in Charlotte, North Carolina. Bucky is. What is going on here?
Bucky has. So I think there was an attempt to remove Bucky, and if I'm reading it right, Zach reminding Rudy that Bucky has Ward, and so can't be challenged by Teeth and Ambition, or can't be chosen by Teeth and Ambitions. Instead, Rudy has to pick a different target. Teeth and Ambitions here, though. So what Rudy has done is a combo that I think a lot of people were excited for when they saw Prince Eric. Teeth and Ambitions is a card that if you do 2 damage to one of your own characters, can do 2 damage to an opponent's characters, and that just so happens that's the perfect amount of damage to banish Prince Eric. So use Teeth and Ambitions to deal 2 damage to an opponent's character, 2 damage to Prince Eric, and when he's banished, it allows you to remove another of your opponent's characters. And that's exactly what happened here with Prince Eric banishing the Jafar, and you see that residual 2 damage there on Ursula.
We've got another Tragic Beast out there.
And again, you'll see Tragic Beast Floodborn triggering Bucky, and then Rudy, unfortunately, forced to discard the Teeth and Ambitions, which he could have used again with the Prince Eric in order to banish Tragic Beast. But sadly, Bucky, forcing him to discard that.
And we have a location on the table. First one we've seen of this final match between Rudy and Zach.
And this is a challenging situation here for Zach. I mean, he'd love to remove the Queen's room there, because Rudy's going to move some characters there. He's going to draw some cards. But to challenge that location with anything he has on the board, he's going to expose characters that he'd rather not. Ursula, arguably you can get rid of at this point, but she only does one damage. Beast is your highest strength character, but you really don't want to expose him to Maui or anybody else. So let's see. I do think Zach has some options here. We'll see if he removes that location, because I think it's the biggest threat on the board right now.
Yeah, not only that, as soon as Beast does take damage, that the trigger of drawing a card at the beginning of your turn no longer comes into play. He does become more powerful, though.
That is true. He's Angry Beast.
Very angry. Yeah, I love that art on that card, because you can see he's overlooking a fire as well. Like, what is going on? He's having a rough day. Okay, here we go. Now, this is something that we find often, I would say, in finals, where players really take their time to think about what they're going to do, really overlooking the board. But these guys are 2 or 3 steps ahead. So it's fun to watch these guys and see what they're going to do.
Yeah, these players are both. You're 100% right. These players are both so talented. And you can tell, you see them move so quickly through many turns, because they know the right play. They're moving quick. They know what they want to do. They've planned ahead. And then sometimes you reach these critical turns where there's some key decisions. Maybe there's one card and you can choose to use it this way or choose to use it that way, and that'll have huge implications. And so the player takes their time to think. This turn could be the crux of the game, so the player takes their time, thinks it through, to make sure they're making the best decision that they can.
Yeah. And just letting you guys know, for those of you curious about the deck list, the guys at the shop have let us know that they are going to be posting deck list to their Facebook as well as Mushu Report after the tournament is over, so you can get a look at what they played there. All right, location has gone down. So I didn't see it. What was enough to knock out the location there?
That was 2 copies of Along Came Zeus,
okay.
Which I think neither were sung, that were both played with.
Was one cast and one
I
sung?
did look away for a second. It looks like one was sung by Beast. So fortunately I had to do that. So get that location off the board.
There we go. Beast trades for Maui.
But I do think that card draw. I mean, the lore is one thing, but the card draw potential was just too much. And definitely a card that Zach wanted off the board.
All right. So right now, what is Zach doing to Rudy's discard there?
I mean, he's checking. So, discard piles are free information, or public information rather. So you're allowed to look and know what is in each player's discard pile. So Zach's taking a look. There's I don't know what it is. There's a card that Zach's trying to figure out, how many are left in Rudy's deck, to try to know what Rudy's outs are, what he might be playing towards. And he was just checking to see how many are in there. And one of the reasons is, Rudy's had to discard a lot of cards this game, and so your memory is a funny thing when you're playing. The cards that have been played against you or that have been on the board and you've banished and everything else, like you kind of remember those. How many Be Prepareds have been played, for example. But because Rudy's been doing a lot of discarding, some of those cards that go straight from your hand to the discard pile are easy to forget. So Zach's just taking a look and getting up to speed on what's down there.
Okay. So if anyone at home, like me, who saw that for the first time, was like, wait, why is he digging through his pile of cards? Totally legal. Totally okay. Okay. Morph sitting there. Let's see who will Morph shift into somebody else, or is he just going to sit there and just be a happy little slime thing that can float? We'll see.
Happy little Morph. Yeah, it is interesting. I'm pull up I'm quiet because I'm pulling up some deck lists here to take a look at something, but this is a kind of a good example of how this Steel Emerald deck can kind of throw control decks off their game a little bit, because you can see, how we talked about early on how the Buckies and the discard were going to put, kind of enough pressure on Rudy to kind of prevent him from getting to the end game state where you have Be Prepared as an option and enough ink to play it. Enough ink to play it, and you can see that's exactly what's happened. At this point, in order to play a Be Prepared, Rudy's not only going to have to draw one and keep it in hand, but then have an extra card to ink to get to that 7 ink. So that's why this Steel Emerald deck just feels so good right now. Is it's not a discard deck per se, but it applies just enough pressure to your hand throughout the game that it can prevent some of the end game states that these control decks are working towards, and you're kind of seeing that right now. There we go with the 7th ink, and there's the Be Prepared. So as I say that, but again, ideally, Rudy would like to have something left over to play immediately afterwards, and he doesn't. So Zach playing a couple small things to the board, and Rudy now, working to respond.
Yeah. And so 2 Buckies are now in the banished pile, so not a lot can be done there. Looks like Zach is looking to see how many Be Prepareds perhaps are in the discard pile. See if there's any more out there. Maybe he just likes the art. Who knows? Okay, questing for 2. Zach just picking away at the lore right there. Rudy with a sizable lead, but Zach just not letting Rudy get away with it.
Yeah, so it's interesting now. I mean, the draws. I mean, obviously the draws always matter, but right now, the draws really matter. You know, both players are in this. Both players could take it. You know, there are answers that both decks have. So, gosh, this is so fun to watch play out. You know, one of the things Zach's thinking about is like he wants to take advantage of this moment. I feel like to gain as much lore as possible while there's nothing on the board. You know, quest with those morphs, which are kind of vulnerable. But at the same time, you know, he's thinking about if I put too much on the board, you know, I'm susceptible to another Be Prepared. So he's kind of thinking through that line.
We got a rabbit out there. Do some card draw. Oh, I looked away and the rabbit's already gone. The snake took over the rabbit.
Big Tink coming out, doing 1 damage, clearing out Chernobog's minions, 1 damage to the snake. Here we go, questing.
There we go. Zach, look at that, making up ground very quickly.
Yeah, it's such a tough thing. I mean, Zach, you know, anytime you're playing against a player, a Ruby player, you know, with Be Prepared, when 7 ink is on the board and Be Prepared is an option, when you're in that stage of the game, you're really trying to, you know a Be Prepared could be played, and oftentimes you know a Be Prepared is going to be played, and so the challenge is, you know, how do you get the Be Prepared like this right here?
There it is.
How do you get the Be Prepared out when you want it to be there? So you're putting just enough pressure. You're you know, putting just enough out on the board to make your opponent uncomfortable, to draw that Be Prepared, and have something left to respond. And it's a challenge.
And Rudy very quickly dropping a bunch of characters on the table.
Big Tink, great card to be played right now. Not only, I mean, do a little bit of damage, but it can threaten those cards when they come out, and, you know, importantly, has 4 strength, so not susceptible to Madame Medusa. But that is a fantastic combo there with Jim Hawkins coming out, allowing the Queen's Throne Room or the Queen's Castle to be played for free, threatening that card draw next turn, and really, especially that 2 lore as well. When you're sitting at 14 is also pretty dangerous. So fantastic combo that Rudy's trying to do.
Okay, let's see what Zach can do to respond to that. Is a massive drop right there, because Jim, he's worth so much. I mean, because you play him, but you also get to play a full-on other location as well. That's huge.
It's great value.
All right. We've got an Ursula. So Ursula shows what Rudy had in his hand. No songs. And then another big Tink takes down damage, or drops 1 damage across the board. And looks like Jim goes down as well.
That was a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot. Wow.
Oof.
Even Elena's impressed. It's our daughter who's amazed by the play. Yeah, you know, great play by Zach, clearing the board there, with the shift, with the targeted, you know, Tink damage. You know, again, you know, Jack, as you pointed out, one of the things locations do for you, you know, they are not only not affected by Be Prepared, but then cards like Big Tink, which do damage across the board, also don't affect locations. So, you know, and cards like Let the Storm Rage On again, which do damage to characters, don't do damage to locations. So what they really gave this Ruby Amethyst list was, you know, these cards which are immune to the answers that a lot of decks are playing. Here you have a whole new world, trying to find some answers.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at this point, Rudy's got to be feeling pretty confident with those 2 locations on the board. And Zach's just hoping that he draws something good.
Yeah, so there's a couple things. You know, the big card here, then along came Zeus, you know, does do damage to locations. It does 5. And again, one of the things that makes the Queen's, you know, castle so good is that it has 7 willpower. So the 5 damage, you know, requires 2 more to remove it. So we'd have to sink 2 of those. And again, it's just not enough. Those locations just such good closers.
Wow, yeah, absolutely.
For this Ruby Amethyst deck. Yeah.
All right, with that, Rudy takes the first match. Woo! Okay, that was an exciting one. Looks like very early on, Rudy kind of got out to a nice lead and kept Zach at bay. And now Rudy is 1 game away from winning this tournament, winning this GSG tournament, $1,000 tournament down in Charlotte, North Carolina. And oh boy, chat, what are you guys feeling? How are you feeling about this? How are you feeling about this, Liam?
I mean, I love it. What was interesting about that match is again, I do think, you know, as we pointed out around turn 6 when, you know, Rudy kind of stalled out for a moment, like I think Zach did what he wanted to do that game, and that was control the board, put enough pressure on the hand that Rudy was basically top decking at one point. Mm-hmm. And so he played the game I think he wanted to play. Rudy, you know, also played a fantastic game. And this deck has so many tools. He got the rabbit at the right time, drew some more cards, and both these players just played this deck fantastically. And it just so happened that you know, Ruby Amethyst came out on top this game.
Yeah. Who would have thought Ruby Amethyst, the holdover meta from the first, or from the first expansion, is going to carry over to the second expansion? Obviously, we're seeing some refinements, we're seeing some tweaks, but it is still interesting that we're seeing a lot of very similar stuff still out there.
Yeah, it is kind of a different deck. The end game, what I love about this build is how different the end game is. You know, because before you really, you know, you gain control of the board. You had sometimes some really high top end stuff like, you know, Maleficent's in there even. To gain control of the board, and you know, Ursula's were kind of a finisher. Sometimes Elsa's, which locked down the board and then allowed you to quest out. Sometimes in some builds, like we saw Bobby Break run spellbooks to kind of close out the game down in Houston. Now you're seeing locations as the finisher, which is different, and it's new, and it's kind of refreshing to see that as kind of the end game for this deck. Although probably frustrating for, you know, the opponents of the deck, because there's not a lot of answers for locations right now in terms of targeted removal. Yeah,
I'm curious if we're going to see Ravensburger sort of respond to that with the next expansion. You know, like I love that I'm already talking about the next expansion. It's literally been out for a week, but we're I think we're 3 months away or so, probably before the next one comes out. And I'm curious to see if we'll see more of that kind of stuff, more of that location target type stuff in the game. So it's gonna be fun if we see more characters who can do that, you know, specifically. So
yeah,
I
do think so. I think we're gonna see characters that do extra damage to locations. I think we're one set away from a destroy target location. I mean, we have a destroy item or location card. We're going to see more of that. And then within the next 2 sets, we're going to see destroy all locations or banish all locations.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The be prepared of locations. It's coming.
Would that be like an earthquake or something? I'm curious. What would you call that? What would trigger removing all locations from a game?
I don't know. I mean, if Be Prepared's a song, then it'll have to be a song. What song would it be?
Oh man,
Chad will have to come up with the answer. There's a perfect Disney song to destroy all or banish all locations, and I'm wondering what it is.
I'm thinking the Driller, the Mole Man from the end of Incredibles, I think, but maybe not that. All right, we're here we go, kicking it off. Zach is on the play right now. Rudy will be on the draw as we get into this final match. This could be it. Uncle Jasper says Hellfire. Okay.
You know, that's the song I had in my mind. I don't know if that song. I don't know if they'll use Hellfire in today's day and age. Although it's one of the best Disney villain songs, I maintain.
Underminer was the incredible. Thank you, Ann McKendry. Also, I want to point out, so you were talking about the Robin Hood turn 3 shift, and now we have Morph and Robin Hood out there. So 2 targets for that Robin Hood shift if they choose to do so.
Mm-hmm. And now one. Zach's sitting with a whole new world. So there's the shift. There's the whole new world. That's the line.
Wow.
Turn 3, whole new world. Gosh, this does a couple things for you. I mean, one, it obviously refills your hand and allows you to play aggressive. The other thing it does is, Rudy, mulliganed for a certain hand. Maybe he was maybe he had a Be Prepared in there, and was saving it. And Zach now checking to see what was discarded. 2 friends from the other side. That's a good hit. So all of the things Rudy mulliganed for gone, and now Rudy's on a fresh draw without the ability to mulligan. So what you're seeing here, like, remember how I mentioned earlier, mid-range decks, you want to control the aggro decks, and you want to be aggressive against the control decks. They sit in the middle.
Yeah.
Zach, this game, is taking a very, it seems, aggressive line, trying to be aggressive. He's going to try to out aggro, I think, the control deck here. So instead of setting up the Bucky line this time around, he went for the line of play, getting the the whole new world out there, and yeah, we'll see how it plays.
Yeah. This is great. But yeah, like, you're totally right. Like, the idea of whole new world being cast so early with that fresh hand, where it's like, okay, I've drawn all these cards, I mulligan to get this hand, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, I got to put it all away. And not only that, like we saw 2 friends on the other side both get discarded immediately. It's like, oh, that's a big oof right there, is what that is.
Yeah.
Jedi Medic said maybe a reference to the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin, because it like falls apart, perhaps.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Made Diamond in the Rough. That's not really a song. The opening song, or I guess the opening song.
What's the song that they sing in Pocahontas when they land and are like, chopping down trees and like destroying the forest to build the fort? Like Mine? Maybe it's that, because they're, destroying the land.
I think that's called The American Mentality, is the name of that song. No.
Colonialism.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Teeth and Ambitions. Down goes Morph. Poor Space Goo. Can't get a break. Yeah, and it's interesting too, because a hit like that with Whole New World, it's got to kind of, Rudy immediately has to then sort of rethink what his plan is. It's like, all right, I had a strategy. That strategy is mostly out the window, so I have to rework everything I'm thinking about. So that is interesting.
Yeah. Although it is interesting because, that's a good point. Kind of to dovetail off that. The other way to play against this deck is the way Zach did the first time, and to apply hand pressure. And so the interesting thing about these 2 strategies, one going straight for a whole new world, dumping, Rudy's hand, dumping his hand, trying to reload and then, refill the board. And then the other strategy of trying to apply pressure on Rudy's hand to prevent him from getting to that end game state. They're at odds with each other, right? They're 2 completely different ways to play against this deck. And so, by giving Rudy, that fresh hand of 7 cards, basically giving him the resources he needs to get to that end game state that he wants to. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. But it's fun watching, this Emerald Steel deck, take 2 completely different tacks in the first game versus the second game. And that's one of the things that makes this deck so popular, is it has these very different lines that it can play.
Yeah. Squizmatic in chat said we should get a Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious song card. I don't know if they could fit that as the card. They would have to shrink the font size down. There's Big Tink right there, doing some damage across the board, knocking out a crab. And a whole new world on top of that as well. And hold my churro, let me know, Liam, that the song you're probably thinking of is called The Virginia Company.
Oh. Yes, that is the first song they sing. Yeah. That's a good one. Maybe that's the one, right? That destroys all locations, because they're Virginians are getting there. They're tearing down the forest. They're destroying the land.
Yeah, there's lots of options, I think. Okay, here we go. It's wild to me where this far in, we only have a 2-1 lore count at the moment. Okay, Rudy's thinking. Drops a fox or a rabbit and picks up more cards or another card.
One of the things you have to think about here when you're playing, against a deck that wheels, with a whole new world is, normally you wouldn't mind having, 8, 9, 10 cards in your hand as you're playing rabbit for card advantage, singing friends, Cusco there is another card that draws you a card. But, the more cards you have in your hand, the more cards you're forced to discard if your opponent wheels again. So here we have Zach taking a look. Don't know if there are any other songs available, but that's the one that's going to go. And again, the best part about Ursula, I mean, getting rid of the song is important, but also the information. Zach now knows, exactly what Rudy's got in his hand and can kind of plan around that.
Yeah, and strategize his next play based on that. Pretty huge move right there. And McKendry says, not a song, but an action like Curse of Te-Ka that removes lands like how Te-Ka was causing land destruction in Moana. That's a clever idea. I like that.
That is a clever idea. I like that.
Yeah, B Squared pointed out that knowing there's no Be Prepared in hand is also a huge, huge nice thing to know about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We do know of at least one in the discard pile. I haven't got a chance to get a good look yet, so maybe more down there. But yeah, no, that definitely frees you up a little bit to do a little bit more on the board.
All right, Rabbit goes away. Let the Storm Rage on.
Here we go. So here's an interesting point. So, Zach was happy to do Whole New World a few times, cycle through a few hands. Now he knows what Rudy has in his hand, and Bucky coming out. Zach has plenty of cards, Floodborn, like that Robin Hood, which just came into play, which can now start whittling down Rudy's hand a bit and putting a little bit of hand pressure on. So yeah, so kind of the difference this game is, Zach taking his time, wheeling a few times, then taking a look, taking a peek, getting into the right position, and now, moving the Bucky out and some Floodborns and starting to put, some hand pressure on. I'm willing to bet that had he seen a different look, had he looked at his hand and seen, a different makeup, perhaps we would have seen a Whole New World there instead, where Zach would have said, hey, never mind, I want to get rid of this whole grip, and do something, force Rudy to do something a little bit different. I don't like the plan that I don't like the way that hand plays out.
Yeah. And so now Zach is just hoping that Rudy doesn't draw into a Be Prepared. That could be.
I do think that's one card that Zach would be sad to see at the moment.
Yeah, Zach's going to strike for, it looks like another at least 7 lore next turn if Rudy can't do anything about it, so.
But Rudy here, every card you draw, gets you one step closer to an answer. So it's one of the things that makes Amethyst so tricky to deal with is there's just so much card draw that, especially against a discard deck, it's a little difficult.
Yeah, that Maleficent being able to pull a couple more cards at least. But we did see one time too that, if you end up drawing your entire deck, you lose the match. And so that is a strategy that some people can take into play where, just force your opponent to keep drawing cards. That's wild.
That is true. That is true.
So we have yet to see any sort of like, is it Scrooge who can play a card if you name it out loud? Or there was a card I saw in Inklands where if you can say the name of the card on the top of your deck, you can just play it for free, I believe.
Well, that's the Sorcerer's Hat. It lets you draw it, I believe. But yeah, I haven't seen that played yet. Although one day there's gonna be a Sorcerer's Hat. It's very good. Maybe it's the Sorcerer's Hat puppy deck, I think.
Yeah, Sorcerer's Hat, says Googly Glimmers in chat. All right, got a Rafiki out there, I believe.
So here we go. Yes.
Okay. So here we go.
Yeah,
Let's see what
do a little bit of bit of board control there.
It's a lot of real estate Zach has to deal with right now. There's a lot of characters out on the field. All right, so Ursula lets the Storm Rage on. Down goes Rafiki. And Ursula, I believe, sings twice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so good. And especially with the card like the Storm, let the Storm Rage on, which allows you to draw a card at the end. So that's 2 targets and then 2 cards drawn. It's a fantastic song to sing with that Ursula.
So with something like A Whole New World, does that mean you draw 7 cards, discard them, and then draw 7 more cards?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it does.
28 cards across 2 players. Okay, Zach trying to make room for all of his characters now. Okay, and that's a discard right there with the Dreadnought.
The one note is at the moment, Ursula isn't strong, or it doesn't have enough. Her cost isn't high enough to sing Whole New World.
True.
But who knows? One day when we have a card which like modifies characters' cost or something, maybe we'll see that.
Wow, Zach within striking distance. I believe he has a win condition on the table right now. If Rudy can't do something about it. Oh yeah, he absolutely does. With just 5 more lore for Zach. And that is ball game right there. Okay, Zach takes it, knots it up. 1-1. We are going into the final game of the final round. Woo. This is exciting. I dig the fact that we've seen different strategies played by Zach with the same deck. And one was successful, one was not. So I imagine they're probably going to lean into that same style of this last time. But then again, that could be luck. The fact that he was able to get the Robin Hood out there so quickly, able to play a Whole New World so fast, and just basically force Rudy to just drop his initial strategy, I think maybe threw him off his game.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a line that, this deck is built to play. That 5-cost beast on turn 3 is just so good. And I realized it when it came out. I don't think I maybe didn't grasp how good that was for Steel, because not only is, Whole New World available, but Grab Your Swords is another 5-cost card, which you can sing on turn 3 now, which is just so good. But yeah, who knows? You're right, Jack. Perhaps that was the play or the line that Zach was looking for in game 1 as well, and just didn't have it. But I do think I do stand by. I think that the way game 1 and game 2 played out are 2 very good ways to attack. This control deck. One being that wheel version. And you can every now and then take a peek at your opponent's hand every time you wheel with Ursula and be like, all right, is that a hand I want you to keep? No. Okay, let's wheel it. Is that a hand I want you to keep? Okay, no, let's wheel it. You can go that way and then start applying discard pressure at the right time, or, this steady discard pressure from the start and force your opponent to kind of stall out. The one challenge, though, against Amethyst is there's just so much card draw in this deck with Rabbit, with, Friends from the Other Side, with, Maleficent, with Kuzco, with the Queen's Palace that just... Yeah, sometimes, if the Ruby Amethyst player hits the right draw after you've kind of stalled them out, they can get right back into the game, no problem.
Liam, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Ursula can't sing A Whole New World. That's
she's not. She doesn't have enough, high enough cost. Yeah,
I know some people might think that. I don't know. It's ridiculous that someone might think that, but she does. Yeah. She doesn't have enough cost to sing A Whole New World, so she can't double it up. There's no. Yeah, it's not a thing that can happen right now. Thank you,
I
Chad.
like to say right now, one of the things is, when a game is around for like 10 years, you start to see mechanics and things that we'd never have seen. So, one day, 7 years from now, there's going to be a card that says, treat characters on the board as if they cost 2 more or something crazy.
Yeah.
Like everything's on the table.
Or there might maybe there's like an
perhaps,
item or an action where it's like like tuning fork, and suddenly you can sing better or something like that. So
there you go. Yeah. That's a great
something like that could happen.
So.
Absolutely, that could happen. All right, looks like Zach is going through, making his final. Wow, Zach looks like mulligan for 6. That doesn't bode well for Zach.
Yeah, so one of the things, perhaps, one of the things, Zach is looking for a combo piece. One of the things that the Lorcana mulligan system really benefits is combo decks and combo pieces. So, and we've seen in the second game, for example, a perfect example of a combo is Robin Hood turn 1, shift Robin Hood on turn 3, and then Whole New World on turn 3. So, Zach is perhaps looking for a similar combo, whether it's a Bucky line of play where he's digging for a Bucky, or it's the Whole New World line of play. That's probably what Zach's thinking about. Yeah.
All right.
It's so I'm not surprised. Combo decks, that are looking for very specific, combo lines of play, are want to mulligan high numbers of cards. So it doesn't surprise me a whole lot.
Nice. All right, here we go. Rudy kicking it off. Rudy on the play. Gonna start this final match of our GSG $1,000 Lorcana tournament happening right now. And we begin.
One thing I will offer too, normally we talk about being on the play is better. And I do think it advantages you, most of the time. The one interesting thing about this matchup though, is if Zach is going to go, the line where he's going to Bucky on turn 2 and start to, force, Rudy to discard a card per turn, eating into that ink advantage. Being on the play, that's one less card that Rudy has to discard before he stalls out. So it's interesting. We'll see how that works out.
And we got a Cusco on the board. You gotta love the llama.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, there's some.
Ooh, that was an inked Bucky right there for a Bucky.
Interesting. Yeah. So we go Bucky on the board again. I think this is a turn 2 play that Zach is happy to make in this deck 90% of the time. There's so many Floodborn characters in this deck, and unfortunately no shift targets out there right now. But there's so many Floodborn characters in this deck that against a control deck where you can force them to discard, 1 card per turn, just as a rule, or something close to it. It feels good, and it kind of stalls out the ramp, the ink flow. Let's go with that. The ink flow.
The ink must flow.
Yeah. The ink must flow.
All right, Rudy with an early 3 lore advantage. But we've got Bucky out there, which means, again, anytime a Floodborn character gets played from Zach, Rudy's got to drop a card out of his hand. And that is not Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, and it's,
was that another Bucky?
Yeah, I will say, and we, anytime we commentate, we speculate, so take everything we say with a grain of salt because we're speculating on the mindset of our players, trying to offer, you all what may be going through their heads. So, I'll offer that right now. But, Zach, would love to have a shift target out there. Right now, would love to have something that allows him to play a Floodborn. Also would love to have a Singer. I think if I'm looking correctly, Zach is sitting with 2 Whole New Worlds in his hand, which is not ideal. One, because they're both uninkable and they're kind of dead cards until you can play them. And the other is that 2 Whole New Worlds are no good together because as soon as you play one, you discard the other. And it's a whole new world that's not in your deck waiting to be available for later games. So unfortunately, no way to sing it, can't ink them. So, it just doesn't have right now the shift targets, doesn't have the line of play I think that he wants right now.
All right. Ursula singing Let the Storm Rage On. Knocks out Madame M. Fox. And hands it over to Rudy.
Yeah, Zach, I think asking cards in hand. So
Okay.
Zach letting him know. And saying, all right, Zach saying, all right, how many cards in hand? It says 5. I think Zach says, that's enough. I think I'll find a juicy target in there. I kind of want to see what's up. And there goes the be prepared.
There it goes. So only at most 3 left in Rudy's deck, excuse me. So that is a very, very, very big card for that style of deck. So the fact 1 is gone hurts them quite a bit.
Here we go. Now the second Bucky feels really good, especially when your opponent's sitting on 5 cards, and after playing 4 cards. I think Zach's sitting with a Beast Tragic Hero in hand, so 1 more ink, be able to play that, trigger 2 Buckies, and start to whittle down Rudy's hand size a little bit. So a little bit slow start, but perhaps Zach's getting to a point where he can start to apply the hand pressure that he wants.
And the wheel begins turning.
Rudy's had enough of that Ursula double singing, so quickly removed by the Fox.
Yeah, it is fun watching these pro players because that's a Merlin goat he just inked, and to me that's a card I would never ink. Like that feels like such a valuable card. But who am I? Who am I to say? These guys are in the finals. I am not. And it looks like Zach is unhappy with his draw.
Yeah, I think the challenge, the issue is exactly what I highlighted earlier. There's an inkable problem here. Zach wants to play Beast, I think, is probably his ideal play, or really anything that costs 5. He drew, if I saw correctly, Along Came Zeus, I think was the draw.
Mm-hmm.
People in the chat probably saw it better than me, but an uninkable card. So unfortunately, like the one card he didn't want to draw. So Beast unfortunately goes into the inkwell to allow Zach other options here.
That stings. That stings a lot.
It's a tough draw. I'll take a look at the uninkables that Dak is running, but really, I think he was hoping to draw any inkable card, and the odds were good, but unfortunately, the odds were not in his favor. So in this deck, Zach's running 4 Storm Rage on, 4 Along Came Zeus for 8 plus 5 on their uninkables with a Whole New World, grab your sword. So if my math is correct, there's 13 uninkable cards in this deck, and a good number of them are sitting in Zach's hand at the moment.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
All right.
Showing Rudy, I have no ink, as he reloads his hand.
Okay, so that Whole New World hard cast, right? So is that 5 for Whole New World?
5 for Whole New World, yes.
Okay. Tragic Beast gave himself so that Aladdin and Jasmine could go hang out with the fireworks.
He's the hero that we needed. The hero that Zach needed.
Is that the top of the castle behind them in that art? I think it is.
I do believe so.
Or is that a planet? Are they? Is there a planet crashing into wherever they? I don't know. All right, Prince Eric's
Maybe
out there.
It's the Illuminary. It might be the Illuminary. Now I have to check the art again. But here we go. So, another gamer lingo. Rudy there with a full grip, as we say sometimes. 7 new cards. Ready to make use of them. Here we have Chernobog Dominions, and then we have Prince Eric. I think Rudy's asking here, hey, if Prince Eric is banished, can I use him to banish a Bucky? And Zach's saying no, can't choose it. Can't choose it.
Because of the ward on Bucky, right?
Yes.
So again, opponents cannot choose this character except a challenge. So All right, there we go. Another Be Prepared pulled out of hand. Zach's got to like that.
I mean, Ursula, gosh, this Ursula is such a good card, and it's one of the reasons that this deck is so popular. These Bucky wheel decks, as I call them. Not only, refilling your opponent's hand never feels good. Even though you're getting 7 new cards, you're giving your opponent a whole new hand. But if you can immediately play an Ursula to not only see what they have and recalibrate your strategy, but then remove whatever potent song that they drew, that's just fantastic. Ideally you can do it on the same turn. Sing a whole new world, and then have your ink available to immediately play an Ursula to discard, one of your opponent's songs. That's it's just one of the combos and the lines of play that make this Emerald Steel deck just so popular right now.
So that Jafar just got played, which means now Rudy has to discard 2 cards from his hand, I believe.
That's correct, yes.
All right, he's thinking about who does he want to get rid of. So this turn alone, Zach has knocked 3 cards out of Rudy's hand with the song from Ursula and then 2 cards from Bucky. That's doesn't feel good. Yeah, that was a massive, really well done turn for Zach. There goes Maui.
That's one of the things I think, it's one of the reasons Whole New World is so popular. It's a great card, but it always gives you outs. Worst case scenario, if you're at the end of your rope, and are trying to figure out what to do next, and you have a Whole New World, you can find answers.
Okay. Yeah, that was a huge swing for Zach right there. He's got to appreciate that turn. All right, Merlin Rabbit out there again.
That's it. I mean, Rabbit is never a bad play, but it's even better when it's giving you a little bit of board presence and then putting another card in your hand. Rudy's sitting there looking at those Buckies, eyeballing them, giving them a stink eye across the table. Nothing he can do about him right now, unless he draws into a Be Prepared. So he knows that Zach is highly likely to make him discard, 2 cards per turn. So anything he can do to keep cards in hand, he's going to try to do.
Yeah, and it looks like with this card, with Kuzco being played right now, Rudy's got 1 card in hand, which I don't know if that card is long for this world when it gets to Zach's turn.
That is true. I mean, if you're going to have 2 cards in your hand with 2 Buckies in the board, you may as well have 1 card in hand. And Kuzco is not a terrible card to play, because it gives you a little bit of board presence. If Zach decides to do something, with his Buckies or with anything else, Kuzco's sitting there threatening him. It's one more thing that Zach has to remove. And if Zach leaves a character exerted that Kuzco can challenge into to be removed, that gives Rudy another card in his hand to use on his turn. So not a terrible card, to be forced to play in that scenario, because it does have the card draw ability kind of tied to it.
Very, very nice. See some folks in chat talking about have never played the game before. Welcome in, Tyler, I believe. This is Lorcana. This game is a lot of fun. Again, it is still very, very new. So if you're interested in playing, go grab a starter deck. There are now 7 different starter decks you can grab. 2 new ones just hit this last Friday at your local game shop. Go check it out. Highly recommend the Scrooge starter deck. It's a good one. I think it's Sapphire and Amethyst. All right. I don't have
Sapphire Ruby.
Sapphire Ruby.
Both players thinking through, for those just joining us, if top of the screen isn't evident. It is game 3. This is the finals. Both players now are playing for the top prize, not only the top monetary prize, but then the prestige of topping this tournament. And they know people from around the country and perhaps the world are watching them play. So they're really taking through their time. You have 2 top tier players right here, thinking about each and every move, trying to make the optimal move, and you're really getting to see some tier 0, the highest tier possible Lorcana play here.
Okay. We've got Big Tink down. That is 1 damage across the table. I always have a special place in my heart because Big Tinkerbell is the very first enchanted that we ever drew. My wife and I drew, or pulled.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Beautiful one, too.
And it looks like that might be a foil version of her, too, on the table. I think those are foil Buckies as well.
I think you're right.
Googly Glimmer says Big Tink is best enchanted, confirmed. You gotta.
I do love Big Tink.
You gotta love the.
Now again, Rudy here happy to quest with these characters because he knows if they're banished, he gets to draw cards off of them. Trying to gain a little extra lore. For those joining a little late, this is Ruby Amethyst. We've seen this deck around the meta, since the game really came out. But this variation is slightly different. The introduction of locations gave Ruby and Amethyst a couple locations, which now this deck is using as closers. So the idea here is for Rudy to keep control of the board, gain some card advantage, move the game into the late game where Be Prepared is an option, allowing Rudy to clear the board of characters, at will, and then to get these, higher willpower locations on the board, one of which allows you to draw cards. There we go, 2 cards, off those characters, and then a Floodborn, forcing Rudy to discard them. So that's Rudy's thought here is push the lore high enough, and then get some high lore locations or high willpower locations that I can use as a closer.
So what cards is Rudy hoping for? I mean, obviously Be Prepared to be huge, but even then, at that point he's got nothing left to really do anything with.
Yeah, I mean, Be Prepared is clearly something he's looking for. I think, drawing into a Madame Medusa here would also be not too bad because he could remove the Beast Tragic Hero, which is kind of a tricky card. I think he'd be happy with either one of those. If you're asking me the ones he'd like to see the most, I think that's it.
Yeah, because now with Beast out there, man, Zach has just a lot of tools at his disposal. And Rudy with the lore advantage right now, I don't know how long that's going to survive.
Yeah, there are, we saw a state kind of similar to this in game 1, and Rudy, with a few good draws, managed to come back and win it. So we'll see what happens here. Maui into Big Tink there, removing that threat. Bounce Maui. Comes back. Is there enough ink to cast? There is. Maui comes back again and removes a Bucky.
Okay. But at
so
this
there
point,
we go. I mean,
Rudy's still top decking though. So
that is true. Extra card off Beast. I do think, that Beast, that extra card draw is just so good. Beast will never not be a good card. I don't think.
He will forever be sad.
Maybe years from now, maybe we'll look back and I'll remember this quote when Beast is completely power crept. But Beast is so good.
He has nothing to be sad about except whatever that fire is going on.
Yeah, so Zach's in an interesting position here. He as we talked about last game, he wants to close this game out. This has gone long enough, and the longer this game goes, the more Rudy's able to kind of draw into a card that'll help him, change around the board state a bit. Madame Medusa, which gives you a decent swing, or be prepared is the big one. The problem is, that Zach has to plan for a be prepared top deck at some point. So he's thinking about, how do I, get enough on the board that I can kind of advance my lore bit by bit, control the board, get closer to victory, but leave myself enough in reserve in my hand that it's not game over for me, if a be prepared is played.
Yeah. And Zach questing right there with Ursula, just chipping away at that lead. All right, we got Goat on the table. That's a pretty solid card for Rudy to have. Can't do a lot more than that, but hey. Yeah, I know.
Does get a lore. Represents another lore. Little bit of board control. But unfortunately, really the beast is one of the big problems to be dealt with right now. Very hard to beat an opponent that's drawing an extra card per turn when you're top decking. So we'll see if an answer for that is forthcoming.
Yeah, I know I get frustrated when I force myself to top deck. I can only imagine the feeling when your opponent just takes all of your cards out of your hand. And that was 2 grab your swords?
Grab your swords, yes.
So how was one cast and one was played off beast?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, beast saying grab your swords, which is always ironic.
Yeah.
So fun flavor note, in French, the way the song was translated, there is no line "grab your sword." So the card in Lorcana in French is translated as, I think it's "kill the beast." So in this instance, beast singing "kill the beast," which is a tragic and sad thing to do. So perhaps it's right on flavor.
See, that would make him a tragic beast. If he's literally singing "Kill the Beast," that would make sense to me. Oh, look at that, Zach swinging big right there.
Right in the feels. Yeah. Got to control the board, extending himself a little. Another Tinkerbell. There's the Madame Medusa. That is the card Rudy wanted, several turns ago. Getting it now is not terrible. But removing that beast definitely makes things a little more palatable.
And we see the lore on our counter here was given to Rudy instead of Zach. That's okay. We'll get that sorted. Don't worry. And we'll get you an updated thing. All right, here we go. And going questing. Zach is taking swings.
Yep, turning cards sideways, as they say. There's the rabbit drawing for answers.
And that's it right there.
That's just not enough.
Zach is your winner. Congratulations goes to Zach. They did it. Won the GSG. Get some game $1,000 Lorcana tournament down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Ooh, that was a fun one. That was fun watching two guys really, really pilot those cards very, very well. Pilot those decks very, very well. And you love to see it. Zach is your winner. Huge deal. And I believe you can actually watch a lot of his stuff on YouTube, right?
Yeah, Zach just launched a YouTube channel. He's got one video up right now where he goes over the Steel Song list that he's very popular for. He's piloted for the last 2 seasons, so a player that you can go watch. online, and we'll find out. We'll have these videos up later, and we'll put in the comments. We'll find out if any of these other players as well. You can follow them. I loved watching every match today. A lot of very talented players, at this event, piloting some very fun decks. So definitely go check out Zach. At Zach Bivens 1, I think, or 10 on Twitter, and you can find his YouTube channel. And then we'll figure out if any of these other players are online as well.
Nice. Actually, in our thing here, I think, am I cool to post these links in chats now that the tournament is over? I imagine I've got the team down at GSG right now is talking to us in Discord. If I get the thumbs up that we can post that, I can just post it in chat right now. But yeah, again, we will have it in descriptions of any videos that go up on YouTube or anything along those lines. They said definitely. So here, I will post. This is Zach's. I'm posting Zach's deck in chat right now. If you guys want to see it, there it is. And yeah, those of you at home or watching on the archive, you can also check it out. Maybe we'll post the deck links maybe the top 8 decks. We'll post them all in the description there so you can get an idea of what they were playing with. But that's another one in the books, Liam. We did it.
Did it. It was fun. I loved it.
Absolutely. It was a blast. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching us today. Thank you very much to GSG for having us cast this game. Hopefully you guys had a fun time. Hopefully some of you might be new to Lorcana. If you're interested, absolutely check it out. It is a wonderful game. It is so much fun. It's only been around for about 6 months now, and so it is not too late to get into it. There aren't 30,000 cards out there. There's just over 600, which sounds daunting, but it's really not. It's really not. That's not many cards at all. And now is your chance. Grab a starter deck, play with some friends, find a local card shop, something like a GSG, and go ahead and go out there and play some matches and get some practice in. It's so much fun, and I really, really dig it. Now, Liam, do you have any final parting words before we get out of here?
No, Jack, once again, it was a pleasure. Thanks to everybody for watching. I just want to offer my final thought. I said this earlier, but I'm going to close with this. There is nothing like in-person paper play where two players that are at the top of their game, or even not at the top of the game, where two people, maybe strangers, maybe friends, sit down across from each other and battle it out with decks that they've designed and built. It's a magical thing. So anytime that we get to see from anywhere in the country, great players sitting down with decks that they built and playing over a tabletop, it's kind of a magical thing, and we love to bring it to you. So thanks for watching, and what a fun way to spend a Saturday night. So Jack, thanks for joining Aaron and I. Aaron wishes she could be here, for the whole stream, but our daughter had other ideas, and I'll just leave it there. What a great way to spend the first day of a weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got to say, too, if you do make it out to a local card shop, the Lorcana community is so friendly. I don't know if it's because it's Disney or because it's new, but everyone I've encountered playing Lorcana has been so nice, and everyone is so welcoming, and it's a great environment. So please go check it out. Find out more information. The new expansion just hit this past Friday, or I guess 8 days ago at this point. So if you want to get into it, now is the time to get into it. A lot of really cool cards. If there's a Disney movie you like, it's probably in there at some point. If it's Pixar, it's probably coming in the future at some point. But that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you again so much, everyone, for tuning in and watching. If they want to see more of your stuff, Liam, where do they go?
Oh, if you want to see more of our stuff, check us out. We're on most social media platforms at Illumiteers, but our primary vehicle is Twitter. At Illumiteers, we put out all sorts of videos on artists, game design, some deck techs. It's a lot of fun. We'd love it if you joined us.
Awesome. And you can catch me over on Twitter. I'm Jack_P, or I stream at twitch.tv/Jack Patillo. Also, that's my YouTube account, youtube.com/Jack Patillo. That's where I'll put this archive and any other future ones that maybe I pop up on. So that'll do it today. Thank you so much, everyone. Have yourselves a wonderful evening. Stay safe. If you're an MLS fan, go Verde. New game.
Go Verde. ATX.
Take care, everyone. Bye.